purpose of time, and just to ensure that we get through the next hour to 90 minutes succinctly, I will try and hold off the questions till the end, so that anyone who's kind of planned or scheduled to do anything or be anywhere can attend those arrangements accordingly without missing any of the info as it pertains to the conversation or the slides. All right. So yeah, feel free just to come in and out as you please. As I say, it's going to be recorded. All right. So the purpose of this particular conversation, as stated, is digestion. Yeah, and what we're going to hope to go over, right, at the moment, I'm just sharing screen. Okay, I'm just going to share this screen. So at the moment, the conversation, I'll tell you straight, we're not going to cover all of the details of digestion in an hour to 90 minutes. I kept this particular conversation as short as possible, but as concise as possible is the motive. Yeah. So there's going to be some areas of digestion that you guys are probably familiar with or kind of going through yourselves that you want addressing. I'm hoping that I can kind of give an umbrella sweep of the digestive system in totality, whilst covering some of the more important correspondences that are not usually covered in conventional, either conventional medicine or conventional education. Naturopathic medicine steers to that side a lot more greater than allopathic in its teachings of the digestive systems and any systems. But we're going to try and really do that in a manner that is both digestible for us and most importantly, understandable. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to try not to go too far off. We're going to stick on the track or the tract as it may, but yeah, we are going to try and make this a kind of wholesome conversation now. As I say, okay. So what we're hoping to explore through this conversation is very importantly, the nature of the digestive process. The significance, why is it important? Yeah, the significance of digestive health. The multi-dimensional correspondences. As I said, I don't want to kind of mislead people with the term multi-dimensional. You can say multi-layered. You know, the various connections that digestion has to other areas of our life that we just may not pay attention to or may not be aware of. It's nice to know, you know, as you kind of connecting the dots to your own reality and how things are affecting your reality or obstructing, which may be the case. Yeah. We're going to track the biological journey of food from head to toe. Yeah, so we're going to kind of go on the journey of food through the body, through the anatomy at the various stages, which are all key points to consider. And they're all kind of faculties of the body where we can obtain specific obstructions to the whole process. Yeah, an imbalance anywhere is an imbalance everywhere. And sometimes when people focus on digestion, they'll just go right to the stomach. Yeah, or they'll go right to the colon, or they'll go straight to an enema, you know, and think everything's going to kind of clear out and flush the problem. Yeah, so we're going to start from the top. We're going to discuss the role of acid, especially acid/alkaline, but when we're talking about digestion, we're predominantly talking about the acid nature of things. We are going to discuss the nature of the bacteria, because they are a massive part of the digestive process, and they're somewhat known of but not fully understood. We're going to by no means attempt to cover all ground of bacteria and how they affect because even science is not fully aware yet of the scale or all the details of the role that bacteria plays in digestion. We just know they play a massive role, and we have some things to work with. And of course, we're going to address various tried, tested, and revered solutions. And we're going to kind of cover the solutions as we go through. So it isn't going to be a kind of one side and then wait to the end to hear about how you can kind of, shove things up your backside and try and flush everything out. We're going to try and address it as we go along. Cool. So relax. As I say, maybe 10 slides in. There's probably about 20 slides here, that's all. Maybe 10 slides in. We'll kind of give ourselves a little 2-minute break to top up our tea. And I'll just look over any questions that may be arising. Yeah, but just cool. And as I say, feel free to flag up, but don't be disappointed if you're not getting addressed immediately. Yeah, the main priority is getting through the slides and getting the information out there in the time. So, the nature of the process. We're talking about digestion. Yeah, the nature of the process of digestion is a transformational process. And the reason I say it like that sounds simple and obvious to some, but more so because this word transformation, especially in the last few years, the last decade for some people, the last few months for some people, but this term transformation carries a lot more weight these days, and it applies to a lot more of our kind of comprehensive being. And no more is that a relevant point to consider than right now when we're discussing digestion. So when we're talking about transformation, we're talking about taking one form of energy, one substance, and changing its form into another suited form or substance. So what we're talking about there, we're talking about a process of divine intelligence. We're talking about a process of magic, essentially. So we can see mechanically and physically and chemically how it works. But what we always have to remember when we're referring to transformation and things of these natural processes is that there's a divine intelligence behind it. And we're going to somewhat aim to get to who's behind that kind of screen or mirror, or what is behind that, or how you can be more a part, just in your own awareness of the nature of the process, how you can be more a part of that cooperative intelligence. Yeah. So we're talking about a transformational process. In this instance, taking a piece of food, a piece of matter that has come from outside of ourselves, in whichever form, and we're putting it inside of our being. Then we're breaking it down. Yeah. And digestion carries a few stages. I always got taught, the typical ingestion, digestion, which is breaking down, absorption and assimilation. Yeah. There's a few key stages in this whole process we call digestion. Any blockage or any impediment to any of those stages throws off the whole process and puts us in a different cycle, and then has a reverse effect. I.e., the process of transformation, as it stands for us for humans, is taking a piece of energy, transforming it into a different substance or form that allows us to grow, to give life to our being or body. Yeah, so we are converting energy to regenerate ourselves or our cells and to give us life force energy. Yeah, but any hindrance, whether it's in the ingesting, the breaking down, the digesting, the absorption, or the actual assimilation, which is just basically making sure those nutrients that have gone through that long process actually get where they're supposed to go. Any hindrance to that can throw everything off and inhibit our life force potential or our growth potential. And if that inhibits it, it's either going one way or the other. So we are either growing and gaining vitality, or we are aging and degenerating, i.e. our cells are not replicating. And if our physical cells are not replicating, that means our psychic cells or our mental cells, our emotional cells, our vitality forms of energy are also not regenerating. And this is where we begin to see the symptoms that we will call, you know, sluggish, or, you know, foggy brain, for instance, in our thinking, or just not having motivation, yeah? Feeling lethargic. Okay. I'd like to also throw another stage into the work, so it's kind of concurrent through this process, which is the commuting of the food, of the energy, because that is also a vital part of the process, the travel, yeah, and that requires the activation of other systems. Sometimes, you know, people can be going to the doctors back and forth, back and forth. They're doing all these tests, you're taking all this medication, you're doing all these practices to fix something, and we can't find the answer. Because if you do not look at the system as a whole and consider all the other systems that involved of this process, then, you know, we can be chasing our tail for a long time. And in that commuting process of digestion, when I talk about the travel, we're talking about the autonomic nervous system. We're talking about your electrical amplification, which is kind of stimulating the muscles, or peristalsis, which moves things along. You see what I'm saying? So the travel is also, that commuting of the food and the energy is also a vital stage, of which it can be inhibited and can cause a lot of problems. All right, so primarily, again, we get taught in naturopathy, conventional, allopathic, in reference to the digestive system, it's a mechanical and a chemical process. Mechanical as in there are, you know, for instance, your teeth. There's that physical operation that is going, that is grinding, that is breaking down. Yeah. Peristalsis can be classed as mechanical to a degree. There's also the chemical, very vital aspects. That is all these different enzymes, all these different acids, all these different secretions that are involved in breaking down, saturating, separating. Yeah. Also, we're going to, for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to throw in the other energetic force that is very much apparent in the process of digestion. And we're talking about the mental process. And as we go on, it may become a lot clearer, it probably already is, but it will become a lot clearer why the mental stage, or the mental process during the whole digestive process, can be key. Yeah, it can be used to whatever degree you want to assist yourself, but to master it from a mental point of view will basically empower you to reverse or support, assist any part of your imbalances. And we say imbalances just in reference to disease or conditions. Yeah, when we're talking about a disease, we're talking about an industrial term that is basically there to suggest you need a industrial remedy. Yeah, we're talking about big pharma. The body don't understand disease. Yeah, imbalances, the body only understands balance. So we refer to anything that is a negative condition as an imbalance. That empowers you, because the body goes through a natural process of homeostasis, to assist the balance. And once you've achieved balance, there's no more dis-ease. Everything, energy flows with ease. There's no dis. So what's the significance of gut health? Why is this so important? All disease begins in the gut. I think that phrase was first recorded, or as it's been recorded, by Hippocrates, yeah, who is known across the Western world as the godfather of medicine. Yeah. Other cultures, ancient civilizations, obviously were highly studied by Hippocrates, especially the ancient African civilization. They had a father of medicine named Imhotep, who Hippocrates studied under, and so did his students. They all pledged an oath to Imhotep, who was the first kind of genius to put in writing and record the breakdown of the anatomy and every herb to cure every faculty of the body. Today, Our doctors and nurses all pledge a Hippocratic oath, and that is the oath of the physician, and that is basically an oath to say they will not do anything to cause harm to the body. They will only attempt to heal the body harmoniously. Yeah. So all of these kind of unnatural drugs that we're using, although they can serve a purpose, a lot of the time, there's a lot of oaths being broken unnecessarily sometimes. But what we're saying is this idea that disease begins in the gut is over 2,000 years old. And it can be validated and is validated today through modern science and study and research, clinical practice, clinical research. Typical conditions that root from the gut, all or most inflammatory conditions, autoimmune conditions or so-called autoimmune conditions, nutrient deficiencies, lethargy and fatigue, this sluggishness, this lack in motivation, this lack in drive, mojo, inspiration, constipation, very familiar and very associated with ill gut health. But constipation is a massive, massive problem, especially in the Western world. And I would say that one of the main points of the problem is that people don't even realize they have that problem. We'll touch on it a bit further down the line. Depression, massively associated with gut health. And that's another one that the everyday layman, is not aware of. Mental imbalance, and this is mainly a focus for me to try and really piece together here in this conversation, the connection between your mental health, depressive conditions, and your gut health. Systemic stagnation and lymphatic stagnation. And what we're talking about is the stagnated flow of energy, whether you're talking about meridians, energy channels, whether you're talking about neurological circuits that are firing and traveling through the body, whether you're talking about the lymphatic system, which is basically your sewage system of the body, whether you're talking about your blood system, which is obviously the deliverer of nutrients to the cells, whereas the lymphatic is the one that removes the waste. Massively important system that is completely underrated and undermined in Western schools of thought when it comes to medicine and healing. The lymphatic system is 75% of your interstitial fluid system. Basically, that means the blood is 25% of a fluid system in your body. The lymphatic system is 3 times greater than the blood system. That's for good reason. And probably one of the reasons Big Pharma doesn't kind of sponsor that kind of information leaking through to our level, because it's a game changer when you understand the lymphatic system. All right, so let's look at lethargy, and fatigue. And we'll start there because it's something that most of us experience day to day. Sometimes we just kind of normalize it in our own mind. We just kind of accept it, and it just becomes a normality or a reality thought for us. Consider it this way. The body uses, for the average person, 50 to 70% of its daily allowance of energy on digestion alone. That's a massive amount of your potential energetic expenditure being channeled to this system alone, digestion. 50 to 70% of your energy that could be put into your own production that is required for your regeneration, not just of your mind, not just of your thoughts, not just of your emotions, your cells, not just of your blood, not just of your organ tissues, not just of your bone, not to get to A to B or to be kind of present in your day-to-day exchanges, in your relationships. Yeah, you can see all of these areas I've just mentioned take a massive pull. Yeah, this slide, we're running on very low amounts of gas in a lot of our areas of energy exchange in life, because 50% in the average person, 60 to 70, is being used just trying to break down all those things that we're shoving into our body. And what happens, why this is kind of increased daily and as we age, is because half of the time, by the time we're reaching age 20, by the time we're coming out of our teens, most of our digestive systems have already been vastly compromised, i.e. they're not doing the job. They're not fulfilling the various stages of the process that it's designed to do, for reasons we'll kind of obviously look at. But we need to really digest that point right there. And the reason it's important that we take our time to absorb these points of information is because eventually that consideration triggers something else. That mental thought and attention we place on it, it triggers something within that says, oh, hold on a minute. So what if I wanted to change this? Yeah. So by the time we get out of our teens, we're already experiencing a kind of negative assimilation rate. That means the nutrients that we're taking in are either not being absorbed, or they're not being directed correctly to their various destinations within the body. So if our nutrients are not getting to the vital glands they're supposed to get to, are not getting to the vital organs they're supposed to get to, are not replenishing the blood the way they're supposed to be, then that means there's a very ugly knock-on effect. Our glands, the CEOs of the body, which produce all the vital secretions, which are like the instructors of all the systems, they fall short of secreting or regulating the vital secretions. We've got glands in our brains that are like in the headquarters. Most of us know we're talking about our pineal glands. We're talking about our pituitary glands. And especially to my ladies, we're talking about the pituitary gland. Yeah, we're talking about the thalamus and the hypothalamus. These are like the divine aspects of man. Yeah. And again, when we're talking about digestion and energy and transformation, what are we actually talking about? What form of energy are we talking about ultimately? Because we have to get to the roots of what is actually going on here for us to be able to appreciate its significance and for us to be able to connect it to ourselves. So when we're talking about digesting energy, which energy are we talking about? And some people are probably typing in the chat, but we're talking about light. Ultimately, we're talking about light. We're talking about God essence, however anybody chooses to see God. We're talking about light, frequency waves. And just to run it, so how does light get into the food? Well, if the food is natural like it should be, because we know that's a big part of our daily disease rates or negative condition rates. People are not eating natural foods, and even the so-called natural foods are not natural anymore. They're GMO'd. Yeah, they're genetically modified, which means modification means change. Genetically, we mean we're getting into the genes. Anybody who understands the body and the DNA knows that the genes is where all the information is kept. So when we're modifying or changing the information in the food in labs, so what's this misinformation? Because it's the food that is transferring that information to our genes. We just call that nutrients. But where is this information coming from that gets into the apple? Well, let's look at the apple tree. We're talking about a tree that is dependent, that is growing off light. Sunlight is the governor here. So no matter what school of thought you're into or what practice, we hear the word light being referenced to many forms of transformational processes, especially transformational processes. Light or enlightenment embodies that essence of the divine or God or wisdom or knowledge. So when that tree is growing and those leaves and that chlorophyll is absorbing the what? The light, and then it's processing the light and transforming that light into a form that is readily available and accessible for our physical form to pluck and ingest, for us to break it back down and do what? The body is always trying to break something down into its simplest form, into that which it is at its essence, so that we can use that very simplified minimal essence. So we're breaking it back down to retract that light. Yeah. And then we're using the light because that is the divine intelligence behind it all, isn't it? It's also using water. It's also being grown by the water, the rains. Yeah. It's also being grown by the air. All which, depending, which school of thought you're going down, are all seen as forms of light. Everything here is light or sound, which is the vibrational capacity. Anyway, so what we're saying is here, we are dim, yeah? We'll put it like that. When we are lethargic, when we are fatigued, yeah? Just think of it as the body being electrical, which it is. Yeah? We are lacking surge. Yeah? We are reduced in our current. What happens in your room if you are reduced in current or you do not have that electrical surge? The light's out. You can say lights out. Yeah. So a lot of the kind of metaphors or analogies, they will write themselves, but we have to be thinking along those lines. And when we do make those adjustments in our thinking and the way we see things, yeah, things become a lot brighter, and so does our opportunity to transform ourselves. So, constipation, another big cause of that kind of fatigue feeling, because if we're not eliminating all of the waste products, and unfortunately a lot of the food a lot of us are eating today, well, probably all of us, because nothing is how it used to be, yeah, either is or contains a bulkload of waste. And the standard practice for healthy circulation and transformation of food when it comes to emptying our bowels is one movement per meal. If we're eating the kind of Western taught 3 square meals a day, yeah, okay, cool. But if you're not emptying your bowels 2 to 3 times a day, science, by the laws of nature, you are going to have a grave imbalance. And I'll tell you something else about constipation, because I've sat with many people over the years on a consultation basis. And I'm telling you, I used to make a joke of it, but it ain't no joke. And I often say this in session, in class, or to any clients. You can often tell, when your eyes kind of trained and look in a certain way, you can tell when someone is constipated, because the mind, yeah, cannot take in. You can see them struggling to break down the information just when you're talking to them. It's like me, hands up, I become gravely aware of the state of my internal if I find myself not firing on cylinders, like yourself. So when I'm taking in information, if I'm having too much trouble and it's just going out, like that's the ping light bulb moment. What's going on? Maybe I ain't cleansed for a while. I'll start tracking my movements. Do you see what I'm saying? Because it's a simple blueprint model to turn to. Yeah. If you are not moving, that means you are clogged up, you are stagnant. That means whatever is coming in is not getting the full efficacy of the process or energy of digestion. It is just building up and building up. Yeah. So nothing's getting broken down. Excuse me, Rocky. Nothing's getting broken down. Yeah. And no nutrients are getting absorbed. So you're sluggish and now you're nutrient deficient. And now because you're so backed up, you can't break down any more food, literally. Information is a form of energy. It's a form of light. It's a form of sound. Yeah. So when you're listening to something, it goes through a process of vibratory waves and fields. Yeah. But when it hits a certain point in the mid-ear, this vibratory wave pattern has to hit a crystal layer. And that's where it is read as an electrical and light energy. So even the sound you are hearing transforms into light by a magical process through the eardrum. Yeah. So when you are talking to someone who's constipated, you are able, or you might have the experience yourself. Yeah. It is nearly impossible for you to take in forms of energy that is trying to feed you. You have a problem breaking it down, whether it's food, whether it's love, or whether it's information someone is talking or projecting onto you for you. Like I said, nutrient deficiency, a big one is iron, especially in the ladies, in the men too, but especially in the ladies. Yeah, because to absorb iron, it plays the stomach and stomach acids and the triggers that the stomach acids have on other chemicals which trigger other processes of absorption, yeah, don't happen. So a lot of people just turn to iron tablets or iron-rich foods and they don't get much joy. They don't realize it's that we're not absorbing the iron correctly in its correct form, because a lot of these nutrients that we take from the food have to be processed again on the digestive journey into a form, remember, that is acceptable by the body. And that involves other forms of chemistry secreted from other organs and other glands. So you can see how an imbalance anywhere is an imbalance everywhere. And we have to consider it all when it comes to digestion. Another way or another reason so many of us experience, and just excuse the thrown together PowerPoint slides. I'm no expert by any means, but another reason why a lot of us suffer this fatigue and lethargic kind of experience, that kind of sometimes also very nauseous experience, that drained experience, not necessarily all the time. We have phases, sometimes far too often. Sometimes when we wake up, we're as tired as we were before we went to bed, and that lasts too long. Another reason that happens, another massive part of digestion, is cell wall integrity. What I mean by that is, in simple terms, is the walls of our intestines, yeah, have a certain structure to them, and it's like a mesh. Probably heard it 1,000 times. Yeah, there's a mesh. The integrity is very strong and very structured. Yeah, but there's certain foods that we eat and there's certain ways that we eat that compromise that integrity of the wall, of the cell wall. Now, maybe what we don't pay attention to or consider is that this cell wall, this is like one of the greatest, most important barriers that the body offers in terms of defense. Because it's only this cell wall, this tissue wall, that is separating all of the bacteria, all of the pathogenic potentials that come in the mouth, up through the tract of the nose, come in the food, on the blood. Yeah, all of these metals and debris, the only thing separating it from your blood and your other tissues is a cell wall of the intestines. Don't get me wrong, it's miraculously strong for what it is. But when this wall is penetrated and that structure starts to be opened up and compromised, and it starts to leak energy, yeah, this means all of the bacteria, all of the microbes, all of the pathogens, yeah, all of the metals, even the proteins themselves, even some of the food debris that is not digested, now can escape this wall and enter the bloodstream. And that is where we get a lot of problems. The problems we get from that are not just the drain feeling because you've got your blood's compromised, yeah, and it's competing for space. So even other nutrients don't get in the room or in the boat of the blood cells because there's other crap in there, literally. Yeah. But we're talking about the all too common autoimmune conditions, yeah, where it's said that the body is attacking itself because something is triggering the inflammatory system. That is that stuff that is leaking and exiting the cell walls of the intestines is in the blood, and straight away it is triggering an automatic emergency response. Yeah, it's not the body attacking itself necessarily. The body does not do that. God does not behave in such a way. What it actually is that this crap is so widespread in the blood. It's like a lot of our immuno defenses, our white blood cells and the natural killers are going out and they're like taking out scores of, pathogenic substances or microbes, just like in any kind of conflict. Sometimes the good get killed in the crossfire. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of the autoimmune conditions we're experiencing are simply down to our cell wall being weakened and leaky gut. Yeah, they call it. A lot of our allergies are rooting from weak cell wall or leaky gut. Yeah, like I say, there's a lot of escaping of that very tight confined space that has kind of a Fort Knox approach to it. But when that is penetrated and compromised, yeah, massive imbalances. And don't forget, we're constantly eating, we're constantly digesting. And if the body isn't even digesting properly, which it isn't in 90% of us, yeah, there's going to be so much that is being released constantly. It's a cycle. And then we're taking medication to combat the inflammatory symptoms. Yeah. And what is that doing? Medication also wipes out the good bacteria in your gut. Fact. Medication also weakens the kidneys, which is filtering the blood. So you can see how this can have another massive knock on. The blood don't need any more knocks at this point. But if it can't even get filtered by the kidneys and by the liver, because they're being put to sleep or they're docile, then what happens? More problems, more imbalances, more medication, more consultations, more confusion, more stress. And we get trapped in these cycles. Another way this out, one of the main products in food, which is pretty well known now, which causes this compromisation of the wall, is gluten. Yeah, that dodgy, stodgy protein that we all love so much. Most of us grew up on bread. Some of us not much more than that. Do you know what I mean? But that kind of stodgy protein that is in the gluten, that is in most of our wheat and starchy products, yeah, it is this very complex structured protein that the body finds very hard to break down. And it's this same protein that manages to penetrate and fire holes in the wall of our intestinal tract. Another way the wall gets compromised is again through us not allowing this process of digestion properly, which we are going to cover when we go on the journey. Yeah, because what tends to happen is that especially the large intestines, when we've got undigested food, yeah, it's still going to do its natural course of life after death, which is decompose, putrefy. And when it decomposes, yeah, it's sitting in the cell wall on the inside, and there's only so many layers, and it's not greatly thick. If we consider how much we constantly bombard this very delicate piece of anatomy. So what happens is when it starts to decompose and putrefy, it kind of sits in this wall, and as it's rotting, like anything that rots, it rots that which is around it. Yeah, so your cell wall starts to get holes burrowed in it, and other bits of debris get in and sit and rot, and eventually it causes these kind of engravings in the cell wall. And then we've got all kinds of acidic material running through, and the acidic will wear and tear. Yeah, it corrodes because we live such an acidic lifestyle when it comes to food. Yeah, it's very eroding of the cell tissues and vessels. So knowing this going forward, we have to be very mindful, A, of what we eat, how we eat, but B, the process which we use and take ourselves through to flush and clean these organs and these tissues, and to reduce and then strengthen these very, very important defense mechanisms, because anything that has happened can be reversed. Yeah, fact. That's why it's always important to see these conditions as imbalances rather than diseases. Very slick trick that's been played on us. Yeah, you think in terms of balance, everything in nature can re-find or regain balance. As long as we take the obstructions out of its way, it happens with ease. At this point, just we're on slide 7, good. At this point, just a word now to speak to the multidimensional correspondences, because we've been throwing them in there as we go along. Yeah. But at this point, before we continue, what I hope to do is just kind of ingrain it or inbrain it a bit deeper. Yeah, because as I alluded to earlier, we digest on many levels. When it comes to the digestive system, especially the digestive tract, yeah, we can look at this faculty, this part of the organism, as the realm or the faculty of digestion. Anything physical in your experience, as you know, also has a mental, has an etheric, has an emotional, has a chemical correspondence to it, has a spiritual correspondence to it. So to look at the physical aspects of anything in this natural world, just as, and taking it for what you see, just as matter, or like how a lot of the medical staff in the hospitals that I've been around always allude to the heart as simply a valve or a pump, as your vessels, just as parts of the plumbing, they're just plumbing pipes. Yeah. It goes as far away to see why they can just so freely and willy-nilly go into somebody and start hacking away and taking out. Yeah. And start being very destructive in the name of health and repair. We have to see everything, every part of our physical anatomy as a physical manifestation of a very psychic, very mental, very spiritual aspect of our being. Because after all, it is those simple faculties, those simple pipes and pumps that are generating so much divine intelligence that we still can't explain to some degree, in some ways. So when it comes to the digestive system, yeah, I love, that we can turn to the universal principles, some of the most ancient principles that are spread across all of the teachings and ancient revered civilizations, school of thoughts and arts and therapies. As above, so below. A truth anywhere is a truth everywhere. And that's why a lot of the paths, when people are on the path, it is just to merely discover the truth of the universe through analysis and observation of self. And you best believe it's there. So many civilizations over so many millenniums would not have dedicated so much study, so much time and so much lifetime to this practice if there was nothing in it. And many of us here on the line would have experienced our own experience of this truth, which is often the motivator to keep us going down the path. But when we say as above, so below, we just go inside of the body. Look at the brain of the body. We have a brain. We often, when we think of the brain, our thought goes to the head, because this is the headquarters. This is the top shelf. This is the apex of the pyramid, so to speak. Yeah. And we know we have a brain present there. We know this brain is very key to a lot of the processes that go on in the body. But just look at the brain. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, right from the embryo, the first forms of tissue to start developing is that central nervous tract system, which consists of the brain and the colon, and they start to develop simultaneously as one. Very important, given the emphasis that we're placing here. Yeah. So when we say as above, so below, we also go to this gut and look how it's often being referred to and is always referred to. We call it the gut brain, i.e., this is another independent brain in the gut, but it's quite we can call this brain somewhat more of a deeper brain, more of a sensory brain. And I know a lot of you now are kind of thinking about, oh, you know, when you get thoughts from your brain, when you got that gut feeling, when you're talking about gut instinct, when you're talking about intuition, that all comes from this gut region, which is a brain. But it's not just a processor like the top brain in the head. And I'm not trying to diminish or relegate the role of the brain in the headquarters. You know, headquarters is where the brain boxes sit. That's where operations get run from. But there's always two aspects in this duality of life. Yeah. And one way we can look at it is as above, so below. Yeah. Look at the structure of the brain. I should have had a picture up here, but just imagine the brain. Yeah. Think about its folds. Think about the structure, how it folds over itself. You know, how the matter is kind of tubed. And now think of the stomach, the intestines. I damn sure should have had a picture, just because the visuals are key. But just think about it. No other parts of the body share such a similar structure, because they're both kind of, especially the brain, you know, it is kind of unique in its structure compared to a lot of the other parts of the anatomy. The closest to that is the intestines. Now remember, these are one and the same tissue. They are extended from each other. One takes the above, one takes the below, and they are connected through the central nervous system, which is a neurological, physical, kind of a electrical system that relays information at light speed, even quicker than light. Yeah. And this is the communication, the intelligence that is going on between the North and South Pole constantly. But then think of, if any of you are into like either kind of deep psychology or psychiatric works, or areas of spirituality, or just consciousness, or maybe what's called New Age thinking, there's a lot of reference being paid, or even to the manifestation potentials and the laws of attractions and whatnot. There's a lot of attention being paid, which you are instructed to pay attention to. A massive part of your being that often goes hidden, which is referred to as the subconscious. Everything needs its physical manifestation. Yeah. So when we're thinking about consciousness, we automatically, the consciousness goes to the head, goes to the brain. We think all our consciousness is being, you know, projected from our frontal lobes and all of this. But when we're talking about subconscious means below. That's where a lot of our intuitive nature, intuitive instincts come from. That's coming from that brain there. And if you think about the reverence which is placed on the subconscious, what we're talking about is a realm of you that takes in stores, yeah, and organizes every single thought, every single aspect of your reality is stored in your subconscious. Talking about here, yeah, talking about here, this realm. And now just think about when you're taking in anything you're taking into your being, into your body, it all goes through, whether it's digested, assimilated, absorbed, or whatnot. At some point, your inner sub-region has taken it all. And because there's so much water that governs this realm and every single metabolic reaction, talking about water now, hydration, remember, water records every aspect of its experience. We'll get into that maybe on the water conversation. So there's something within you chemically, physically, and mentally, in this sense, that is recording every aspect. And basically, when we're talking about recording it, again, don't try and think of it as, oh, would the body just remember that I had this piece of burger and it had a bit of gristle and a bit of that, and oh God, it's going to know that forever and ever. Nah, we're talking about vibration. Principle number 3 of the universal laws, the law of vibration. Everything vibrates. Everything has a resonance. Nothing is still, nothing is dead. That don't exist here. If you can see, it's apparent, it's tangible. It is upholding the same laws that are governing you. It is still growing, it's still reducing, either or. Yeah. So it's vibrating, it has resonance, it is projecting a sound. And it's this sound which is being recorded, this vibration. And that's where we get into the kind of acid alkaline, where you kind of need to govern your thoughts a lot more, especially when it comes to your inner systems. Because these like every thought, remember the silence is only outside. You can be sitting in so-called silence and your head is banging off with a million thoughts. All those thoughts have a corresponding effect. They are offering you a vibration, which you are feeling. You can think of one thought and your belly can, we'll put it this way. How many times it can, like, look at the sayings, something can make you sick to the stomach. You can think of something that you just can't stomach that thought and literally project. You can literally throw up even just by seeing something. Why does that happen? Because every single thought you have that is processed by this top brain creates a chemical correspondence. That chemical leaves the brain instantaneously, as quick as it's produced. It leaves the brain and enters your circulatory system. Everything goes to the gut first to be digested. Yes? That's why when someone says something to you sometimes, your perception of whatever is just said, has just been said, instantly turns into a chemical experience, what you might call a feeling. So if it's something intense, that feeling is, it could be butterflies, it could be excitement, it could be nervousness. Yeah? It could be fear. Either way, what has just happened? A process of transformation. Your thought, based on your perception, has just transformed this etheric energy or sound wave into a chemical form. Hello, digestion, transformation, because your body's trying to break it down. You're trying to understand or comprehend what it is you've just taken in. What happens once it's gone into the chemical form? Does it stop transforming? No, because now your body needs to use it in a form that is susceptible to the physical. Hello, stress that kills everybody, this invisible enemy. Oh, he died of stress. Stress killed him in the end. Stress is a massive killer. How does that happen? Stress happens in the head, but it turns into a chemical form. This chemical feeds every physical cell in your body. You see what I'm saying? And that's how stress becomes physical. Now we'll call this tumor, we'll call this cancerous cells. Whether they're benign cell proliferation or they become very fatal. Stress is a killer, everything transforms. This is the process of digestion. We digest on many levels. Chemically, put it this way, now science, you Google it, Every chemical, yeah, that controls the brain is also found in the gut. Remember, they're one and the same since embryonic growth or embryotic growth. One and the same. Top conscious, subconscious. So this is why your dreams, your thoughts, your perceptions, they're all influences of the subconscious. And we're starting to understand that as a Western culture now. We're getting a bit deeper with it, a bit more susceptible and open to the idea because we're using it to heal ourselves in many different forms of alternative therapies. But what I want to try and get through to us now is, okay, the same applies. Yeah, sensory connection. Again, central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, yeah, which uses for that electrical kind of muscular stimulation, but also the digestive system has its own neurological system built into its walls called the enteric, which means internal, or it means the what do we call it? What's the track called? Anyway, it's called the enteric nervous system. Enteric means intestines, yeah, which is its own brain, its own sensory system, just like the heart also has an independent brain. Heart is the highest frequency brain as well. So don't get it twisted with all this, oh, your brain's up there. No, you are your brain. Every single cell of your body has a membrane, a memory brain, a processor. So don't let them, because if we don't understand, if we don't see ourselves as wholesome, as one brain, you know, be all as it may, we're separated by billions of cells, but it's all one brain, one connection. Yeah. Then we want to get into those brains and empower ourselves. Because a lot of the time, remember, this brain is constipated, congested, stagnant, lethargic, slow, sluggish. And like I say, metaphysical connection. That's where we're getting into the subconscious and top conscious. So when we're talking about IBS, these kind of conditions, yeah, anyone who's ever had IBS, and I think 25% of the population have suffered symptoms of IBS or Crohn's, yeah. One of the biggest factors any everyday doctor will tell you is stress is a massive contributor. Stress, I've experienced it myself. I've experienced digestive discomfort and digestive irregularities and conditions at times in my life when I've had too much on my plate, and worry is a massive one. Worry. Yeah. When we feel like we haven't got a grip of something, yeah, when we feel like there's something on our plate too big to digest or chew, yeah, and like people, you know, if someone said literally, oh, you know, you'll shit yourself, you'll piss yourself, yeah. Basically, what this is an instantaneous release. The body's trying to release whatever you've took in or seen or watching can have that effect potentially. You see what I'm saying? And all I'm trying to do is just connect the dots to say that, wow, this is actually a sensory brain. So now we can get to the root of some of the kind of healing mechanisms that we can apply when it comes to strengthening or bringing back balance to these regions. Yeah, stress is a massive factor, the key factor. And now we understand how the gut-brain connection actually works at every single level: physical, chemical, sensory, metaphysical. Oh, it's one and the same. As above, so below. Really, it's going on up here. We have to get a grip and start to realize what is actually going on in our conscious that is programming our subconscious, and vice versa. And when we have got these great fears, doubts, worries, we have to go through very serious, if you're serious about taking this path, very serious reversal practices. That is basically you reprogramming your subconscious. A beautiful experience, strenuous and diligent, and it just you go on a path of self-realization, and now you're getting to know yourself a bit better, because now you have to realize, why you're going to start, why do I think like that? Where did this happen? You might go on past life regressions and all of that, depending on what path you're on. But We cannot dispute the facts, and nobody can. There's only wealth and more wealths and more wealths of information and proofs coming out to support the fact that if we have to start taking our conditions or diseases seriously in this way, or we be a slave to big pharma and be put on these paths of continuous, vicious, escalating cycles of ill health. As above, so below, as within, so without. What we're saying here is that internal balance or the internal conditions has a direct effect on the external experience. We've heard this a million times in the last decade as well. We are always a product of our environment, and there's worlds within worlds. I like to say, so you have many environments, don't we? Our society, our cities are a big environment, you know. The country we're in, our home gets a bit closer to home. Where's home? Home is where the heart is. Home is right in your core, in your center, internal. But we get closer to home as we come into the family dwelling or wherever that space is for you. That has a massive effect on your productivity, on how you're seeing, how you're thinking, your ability to think clear or process with clarity. You've got a load of noise and a load of, if you're living in a toxic environment, we all know how difficult it is to overcome and strive in a toxic environment. We take that out on the road with us. We take it to the workplace. We take it to the relationships. We take it to the communion we have with our colleagues, our friends, our spouses, the animals, even the nature gets done by us. We completely ignore it when on a better day, you know, when everything's feeling good, everything's feeling great, your space is clean, you're feeling revitalized and energized. Oh, you start noticing the plants in the garden. You know, you start appreciating the crispness of the air or the green on the trees. We are always a product of our environment. So when we go a lot closer and we get into the home, physically, chemically, yeah, we're going directly into the digestive system first because it takes up so much of our core. It runs right through from top to bottom. And this is the hub of so much shite. Excuse if you perceive it as any kind of profanity, but so much crap. Think about your bin at home and think about your sink. Yeah. Every day you're just scraping into, and the bin speaks for itself, even the sink. If that sink ain't cleaned out or drained, after a day or two, you start seeing what grows in there. So now think, all of that, what we call waste is there that we put into these spaces. Yeah? The bulk of that went inside of us. So think of the potential of the environment that is inside of us. We're so kind of externally focused through no fault of our own. But it's time to kind of take the vision elsewhere, because this digestive system, this is our transformative faculty. And I say that because however you see yourself tomorrow or next year or in 10 years, or in your future, however you see your success, yeah, is predominantly governed by the health and efficacy of this transformative process system. Like I say, the actual system itself is the physical governor of that realm. Yeah, just like your reproductive systems, that is generating your vigor, your drive. It's initiating the level of electromagnetic frequency or magnetism, yeah, for you to experience your reproductive potential, your ability to reproduce what is going on internally. But we're talking about the digestive system in the same light. So for you to break shit down and transform stuff in your life, and there's a lot of us at this point thinking, oh, but my digestive in tatters and I have these problems. It's a transformative system. We can transform it. It's built, that's what it's built on. We are transformers, Optimus Prime. It starts in the mind. Yeah, we just have to connect the dots, connect the South Pole and North Pole. Every school of thought teaches you to come and combine the energies, negative, positive, female, masculine, yin, yang. You must bring them together. You must create one. And in this particular conversation, like I said, truth anywhere is a truth everywhere. It applies to the North and South Pole of the digestive system. So don't worry. Yeah, we'll get a grip of it. There's many other ways that we're going to discuss that will reinforce this process. I didn't want the kind of metaphysics to overshadow the topic in a certain way, but it speaks for itself. Thoughts become things, perceptions lead to reflections. And I say that because when you're trying to transform the way you think or the way thoughts have an effect on your body, it's important, and this will probably be more elaborated on in another conversation, another topic. But getting to the root of your thoughts is actually a process of getting to the root of your perceptions. Because it's the way you're perceiving, which has come from your influences, your guides, your teachings, your what you've picked up in your reality. But it's your perceptions of things that will determine the way you respond to things, which determine the way you react to things, which determine the way things react to you or feed back. Yeah. So the way you break down any given situation, whether you can stomach it or not, yeah, whether you can absorb how you absorb a situation, whether it's toxic or vital for you, is determined by its roots, how you've been taught to perceive the world. And also on another note, look at the way the language, we use certain language in everyday life, not realizing we're talking about a digestive process. And the truth speaks for itself. And it will always be an analogy. It will always be metaphorical. It will always be proverbial. Because everything is everything. So it's good to focus on self in order to understand the external and what's going out there, and having that trust. Having that empowerment that, oh, I am a transformer. I transform things. That's it. How do I do it best? Okay. Yeah. Often it starts, when you're living in any given space. Yeah. There's often certain things that are in certain places within your space that are not serving or kind of obstructing or kind of offering you the same ideas, whether it's through their symbology, whether it's through their presence, whether it's through clutter. A lot of the process, put it this way, like the spring cleaning. When you give the house a good gut in it, there we go again. When you gut the house, yeah, when you really get in all the corners, when you clean it and get underneath them rugs, when you have a detox and throw a lot of that old cluttered, hoarded stuff, when you do all of that and throw it away, yeah, and you've noticed this since you was a child and you started cleaning your room properly. You say a good clean, the one that your parents ain't gonna let you get away with. No, clean good. Yeah, when you've had that good clean, how does it feel when you come and enter that space again? It feels clear. The air, the energy that is circulating in that space feels clear. There's some of that there's a certain clarity that you get from that space. You feel more productive in that space. It's a pleasure to be in that space. You're a product of your environment, that's why. So imagine you go and got the real home, the home closest to home. It can start there, the process. Just gutting it, just cleaning and flushing. And we're going to talk about how we do that. So where does the journey begin? I asked this question in a lot of spaces. It's the mouth, isn't it? It's where digestion begins. Saliva, the smart ones say. It starts with saliva and the chemical breakdown. That's a part of the process. But actually, does it start with taste? Does it start with touch? Does it actually begin in the stomach once we've wolfed it down a bit? No. The process of digestion begins with your sensories. They say you eat with your eyes. Very true. Once you smell, whether you're conscious of it or not, once you smell a certain smell, think of a pastry shop or bakery. Yeah. When you get that whiff, right then, because your nose is the faculty of all knowing, it's a faculty of memory. Yeah. And it's a very protective, defensive faculty. Yeah, it's kind of gone a bit dormant in the way we use it now, because it's been reprogrammed, but that's what it is. So as soon as we start smelling things that are agreeable to us, your body starts producing the juices, the digestive juices get going, get flowing. It's preparing to eat. Your mouth might start watering just thinking about food. Boom. So it starts with the thoughts as well. I only mentioned this because this is also, it kind of connects to what we were just saying in the previous slides about your perceptions ruling a lot of the waves around you. Yeah. And when I say how you respond, what I'm talking about is the chemical response internally before the action. That's how I'll refer to it as a response and a reaction. First is the chemical. Often we know it to be like a fight or flight situation. The adrenaline gets running. But this happens on many levels, through many processes. Yeah. So it's that initial perception that is programmed that will determine the way we chemically respond, and that has an impact, often a very influencing impact on how we react. And then it's obviously that reaction that initiates a counter reaction or the feedback, and then that initiates how we respond to that or how we feel leaving that situation. That determines what energy we take to the next person or thoughts. Yeah, we're in these cycles. So when it comes to food, a lot of us can't shift these cravings. Yeah, we become very weak to certain, temptations, which we identify as wrong now all of a sudden, for good reason. But there's another pathway we can take, in terms of the thought process. But it's those, well, think about the children. They've learned and been taught somewhere amongst their peers, amongst the typical cartoons that they watch and things like that, that green veggies are no good, are yucky and horrible. Do you know what I mean? So what happens there? Wow. Okay, the next slide. We'll go on a quick journey now. Again, we've already started the digestive process, family, with our sensories, with the thought of food. And now we've got the food, we're touching it with our hands. That's intercourse, that's interaction. This is stimulating a lot of the glands, a lot of these kind of magnificent, organelles that are in our body that we know nothing of. We're not consciously thinking of them. They're doing magnificent things. Us just touching a mango or opening a packet of crisps that we're craving or dying for, it's stimulating glands that are stimulating secretions that are vital to the digestive process. That is, of course, imperative to the transformational process. So it enters the mouth. Remember, it starts in the head. Hello? So we enter the mouth. We have the teeth. Yeah, they're what's known in conventional teachings as, the mechanical process, the first that initiates the breakdown. Sure. So we start grinding down. Remember, we're trying to take one substance, we've got to break it down to its simplest form. We're just trying to get it back to that elemental form, back to its raw minerals, how it started in the ground before it come together. Yeah, trying to get it down to its smallest unit. You start grinding it with the teeth, but what's also present is saliva. We take saliva for granted. Yeah, why is saliva so key? Because it's got a lot of these enzymes in that start breaking down the food. It isn't just moistening up the matter that's in your mouth. It's penetrating, it's acting upon, it's breaking it down. There's a lot of acidic enzymes in the mouth. Yeah. amylase, which is it's a chemical that breaks down starch and carbohydrates. Yeah. So for a start, if we're not getting a good production of saliva in the mouth, the whole process is compromised. It goes down the esophagus, also in the saliva. We've got defensive, immuno kind of chemicals that are protecting us that go all the way down the esophagus to the lining, like Ig factors, immunoglobulin, part of your immune system that already starts to act on the undesirables. Yeah. And hydration will come into this a bit further down the line, because all of these are chemical secretions. So often, think about if we're somebody who has digestive problems and we're trying to get on top of it, yeah, but we're drinking a lot of coffee, or we like a lot of alcohol, or we like to be smoking, things like these, we're eating a lot of acidic, refined sugared foods. Good luck, because these are all dehydrating foods, and the body has to borrow and lend from every different area in order to, you know, give to whatever's priority. So when it comes to saliva, how many times people, you wake up with a dry mouth? If you wake up with a dry mouth, that is a massive indicator that your body's dehydrated. If you ever wake up with a dry mouth, that's why a lot of people after a binge, after a night on the alcohol, or when you're smoking weed or smoking cigarettes or drinking a lot of coffee, you'll wake up, put certain points of the day, you know, you got a dry mouth, you're dehydrated, you can be talking for a long time, you become easily dehydrated. Yeah. So when it comes to you eating, then we're just wolfing down. We ain't spending time to chew, to break down. This is all pre-digestion, imperative to the digestive process, because then it goes down to the esophagus and reaches the stomach. And when it reaches the stomach, this is another phase. Certain chemicals that were present in the saliva in the mouth to break down carbohydrates, they're not present in the stomach. They don't even make it, because the stomach's at like a pH balance of like 2. The hydrochloric acid is like 2 to 3 in pH balance. That will just scald and burn through your skin. Yet the body contains, manufactures, produces it, cultivates it, and then gets rid of it, neutralizes it in its divinity. So we reach the stomach sac, if you're looking at the diagram, and this is hydrochloric acid production. Yeah. So now this is where we start to break down the more stubborn, the more kind of complex structures of food, like your meats, your fats. Yeah. Here is where stomach acid plays a massive role. Because if this isn't regulated correctly, again, this is the onset to a lot of our digestive problems further down the line. So when we find a lot of problems in the small intestines, again, Crohn's, and when we find a lot of problems in the large intestines, a lot of it is rooting from the fact that we don't have sufficient stomach acid. And we're going to talk about how we can test that and what we can do to regenerate the stomach acid. Oftentimes, what else is coming into the stomach? It's a lot of waste material that don't have no business being there. You should have digested it in the mouth. But because we just wolfed it down, you got a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of starches now that don't have the amylase in this region. That process is gone. Like, you should have been looked after. What are you doing here? Yeah, amylase don't. It's still acidic to a degree, but it can't stand the acidity of the stomach, and that's also key. The stomach being so acidic to a lot of bacterial problems, because a lot of the pathogens that we take into our mouth that comes in on the food, in the air, yeah, it's like even when you cough up mucus, yeah, if it goes back down the pipe, it's covered, because that acid denatures a lot of the pathogens, a lot of the microbes, a lot of the bacteria, a lot of the potential worms and spores that want to get into the body and have a field day. We'll talk about acid a little bit more. Goes into the small intestines. Yeah, and here is the space of absorption. Again, key factor to absorption: hydration, water, absorption and assimilation. Now, what happens in the small intestines, and they're very long, they're a few meters long if you were to stretch them out, but the lumen, the circumference of them is very narrow compared to the large intestines. The small intestines are longer lengthwise than the large intestines, but they're referred to as the small just because the pipeline is so narrow. The lumen is narrow. Because it's so narrow, most of the digestion should have been done by the time it gets into, it's called a chyme. By the time it gets into the small intestines, that should be chyme. That should be just like smoothie would be, like a liquid that the nutrient can just be extracted from. Now they should be in their simplest form right now. What's happening? Because we are bypassing the first couple of processes, by the time we're reaching the small intestines, a lot of that potential goodness has not been broken down. That means it cannot be absorbed into the blood. It cannot go through to the, it can't be assimilated by the liver because it's not in its simplest form. So now it's still in bulk. A lot of the food you eat, you might even see come out in the toilet. That's a massive sign of indigestion. At this point now, it should be being all absorbed, about 90% of it in the small intestines. And what else happens when it's not absorbed? The same thing that happens in the large intestines when food gets into there that has no business being in there or in the form. It starts to rot and burrow itself. Yeah, it starts to create an acidic environment because at this point now in the small intestines, you've got other organs that are getting involved. Pancreas. The pancreas produces, bicarb soda, a chemical that is like very alkaline. Because remember how dangerous this acid is in the stomach. So by the time anything's leaving the stomach and it's so acidic, it needs to be neutralized. That's the pancreas producing that bicarb chemical to bring balance to the solution that's leaving the stomach. But that stomach acid is doing other things we'll discuss. Yeah. From the small intestines, we go into the large intestines. This is where the stools are being formed now. A bit more absorption, water and certain vitamins get absorbed there. But mainly it's just about this kind of reformation of the stool, preparing you to eliminate. How's the liver involved? Well, as soon as things are leaving the stomach, and going through that duodenum, that first part of the intestine, there's a vein called the portal vein. And everything you're taking in to your body through the stomach, the first place it goes is straight to the liver. Your liver is manufacturing, synthesizing and processing and storing all these nutrients. And that's the king of assimilation. Like that is dispatching who needs what, when do you need it, what needs to be stored. What other things need to be denatured and neutralized because some other things, undesirables, make it through. The liver's looking after it. The liver's like responsible for hundreds, if not thousands, of different bodily processes. Not to mention also the production of bile, which also breaks down the fats. Yeah, the pancreas is also producing a lot of key other chemicals. So what happens if our other organs outside of the stomach and the digestive kind of journey itself, we call these accessory organs: pancreas, bladder, liver. What happens if they're underfunctioning for whatever reason, for whatever abuse they've taken, whatever kind of genetically weak reason might be apparent? Yeah, if they're underfunctioning, then that throws off the whole digestive system process. Do you see what I'm saying? A lot of people I know have had their gallbladders removed. So I'd love to know how doctors expect their body to emulsify fats when it's completely dependent on the gallbladder. So you see these symptoms that come with these kind of decisions and operations. Not to say you can't get on top of it, but you got to have the right information and understand yourself and the body to get on top of these things. You got to reduce certain intakes. And if you're not getting this key information from the doctors, which is very rare, Do you know what I mean? Because if they understood the significance, they would aim to regenerate the cell tissues instead of taking it out. Yeah. Then you're on another track that is going to push you further back on your path towards health and regeneration. If the liver is sluggish because we like a drink too often, yeah, or because we're taking in too many toxins of different sorts, we're overloading it, constantly bombarding it, then how are we assimilating anything? How are we denaturing or neutralizing any of these pathogens that are coming through to it? How are we manufacturing the proteins and the fats that are necessary? It's the liver that feeds the gallbladder, the bile. So pancreas also creating, like I said, juices, gastric juices for different parts, for different things to break down. So it's nice when we're kind of considering how we cleanse and how we get ourselves back on track. We consider all of these things, and we can test in certain ways. We can just kind of feed these organs in certain ways, just for the process of elimination, and if at worst, just for the process of, just love and regeneration for these organs. Yeah, and then finally, as we know, we come to the rectum and the anus, and again, elimination is it's as important as any other part of the process, if not the most important. If you're not letting go, let go. Let go of all these things that don't serve you. If you don't know how to let go, and this is a lot, and I say it like that, because in this day and age, we have the capacity now to see things like that. Yeah, we have the capacity now to be well learned and researched, and also apply it to have the experience. If we have problems in life in letting go of thoughts, experiences, problems, situations, people, burdens, guilt that no longer serve our journey going forward, we're going to experience the systematic physical manifestation of that fact. And if you're not already kind of open to the idea of that now, I suggest you do whatever it takes to kind of get yourself on that line. Because there's a million ways to skin a cat, or there's a million ways to heal. In fact, you can heal every way. It just depends which path you put your faith and trust in. But if you go to a doctor who's going to give you a particular way, if you go to a psychologist or psychiatrist for a lot of these problems, he's going to take you through your thought processes. You go to a herbalist, he's going to give you some herbs. Yeah. If you go to a shaman with any of these problems, he's going to go to the spiritual aspects of it and eradicate the obstruction from there, which a lot of the time is the deepest. He's saying everything's coming from the subconscious, and a lot of people have a lot of experience of that, whether no matter what religion you subscribe to. Yeah, they will just attribute that potential to whatever form they see fit according to their creed or culture. It's all the same though. Whatever God it is not discriminating in the method. Yeah. So what all we're encouraging is just get a grip of this yourself, and you can start to take yourself through that process. You can reinforce. Yeah. Now there are, as we said, ways to do this. And because we pay so much kind of time and homage to us eating, it's habitual. It's also an addictive trait we have now. It's become so addictive. It's become emotional. Yeah, it's become mental. Therefore, a good place to start, or a good place to pick up the path, is with the thing that we do day to day that is causing the problem with the food. So how can we start to clear and cleanse this stagnation? How can we start to get on top of these pathogens and bacteria? I like to say, make light work of a heavy load. And what that means is, once you become aware that there are ways, it doesn't mean you have to go for the most strenuous, deepest, most attacking method. I know people that would always, yo, just give me the hardest herbs, man, and just give me this. Like, there's a lot in the process, because remember, a lot of this is very much corresponding to your life, your mind, your subconscious, and the way the decisions you've made and how you choose to live or how you don't live, how you think or how you don't think. A lot of this is just a body relaying messages to you. It's just a communication, and it's governed by a law. Yeah, it's all law. This plus this equals that. There's a certain formula to balance. If you put in any formula in a calculator, it's going to give you the balance, the outcome. That balance is not always what you want to see. So then you've got to think again about your check and balances, what's going in and what's coming out, what am I getting out of it? And this is why it's important to understand the nature of the process when it comes to digestion. We look at the nature and the reasoning of digestion. Now we are empowered to make conscious decisions on how we can assist or even resist the process, if you, for whatever reason, choose to. Yeah? If you look at things from an energetic view, like, okay, I'm eating for energy, I'm eating for life and regeneration. So now when you come in front of a donut, I'm not saying don't ever do these things, there's no judgment here. Yeah? And we're in the Western world, come on, let's get a grip. Yeah? You're gonna do things, you're gonna indulge, you're gonna kind of treat yourself or whatever. That's cool, but just understand how to counterbalance and just try to change and adjust the patterns. And sometimes just because we're eating all the good stuff all the time, yeah, doesn't mean that we're doing right. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, but I eat all the greens and I eat all of that, but they're still low in iron. Yeah, well, you're not absorbing. There's a lot of crap surrounding your inner walls that you have to remove. There's a lot of shit going on in your inner world that is blocking you from seeing the light in a lot of areas. Yeah. So we have to remove this, but we have to be mindful of it. That's the start of the healing. It isn't about just going to people and getting the antidote and the remedy, because all you're doing is forcing one potential into another area of the body at best. It's about understanding who you are, what your patterns are, yeah, internally, externally, and what it takes for you as a human being to start to have a closer relationship with your systems and organs, with your heart, and know how to start to reverse some of these practices that ain't serving. And like I say, just because we're doing everything good on the outside, it bears no difference. It's as within, so without. We can start, why I say make light work of a heavy burden. Yeah. We can start just by doing things like juicing, just a couple of days a week. Yeah. So we're talking about ultimate hydration. We're talking about very little digestive, energetic requirement. And what does that allow? Think about how much of that expenditure of energy you are now shifting to other necessities in your realm, in your experience of being, in your thought processes. Any and everyone knows when you fast, yeah, you come alive in different ways, depending on the nature of your fast or the method you're taking. Sometimes it can have a very opposite effect. Why? Because as soon as you start fasting, the body starts to heal itself. All that energy, your body just wants to find homeostasis, balance. So it really starts to go to work, starts to pull these toxins and this crap out of the tissues. But before your body eliminates it, this comes back into circulation. A lot of people think this is where people get stuck and turn away. Oh no, I felt worse, I felt sick, I was in the bathroom, crappy. Yeah. This is what we call the healing crisis. Good. Because if it entered, it's in there, we have to release it. It goes right deep into the subtle bodies. Some of these diseases do. It gets right deep into the tissues. So when we're pulling it out on this process, one of the last places it enters is the circulatory system again, the streams, the chemistry. Then we'll sweat it out, we'll urinate it out, we'll pass it through our bowels, we might get a bit emotional, yeah? Tears, crying, we don't understand why we're going up and down, And that happens a lot when we're taking medications, things like that. But up and down, because your body's trying to release in so many ways. So we have to allow this process. We have to be mature and understand the process we're going through. But generally, when we fast, juice fasting or dry fasting is very powerful. But if you're not used to it, don't go hard on it. Just give yourself like intermittent fasting, even like 12 to 16 hours, including the time you're sleeping. Yeah, and then break your fast with juices, with fruits. Why is this important? Because as long as it's fresh pressed juice, I ain't talking about Tropicana. Yeah, you're getting the light, unprocessed light. All right, you've squeezed it, yeah, into its simplest form, and you're not taking in the fibers necessarily. But what you're doing is getting in that electromagnetism that is contained in the fruit. You're getting in that chemistry, those nutrients. Yeah, you're doing all the pre-digestion, even smoothies. So a lot of pre-digesting. Remember, we want to bypass as much as we can when we've got a problem that we're trying to reverse. So water fasting is good, but for the digestive system, I like to encourage juice fasting because there's a lot of liquid fiber in there. You know how it kind of gets things moving, especially if you're not going to the toilet every day and passing at least 1 or 2 bowels. Get on the juice fasting every other day, maybe, or even just for half of the day. And then be very mindful of the foods that you're eating for the rest of the day. Mono fasting, mono feeding, again, another fabulous way, yeah, to assist the body in the digestive process. Because when we say mono, we just mean a single food. If it's melons, if it's fruit fasting, brilliant. You get so much hydration, you get so much energy, you get so much light, you get so much nutrient, you get so much energy out your energy reserves. You do get the cravings. We're going to talk about it briefly. We ain't got too many slides going forward. Yeah, but mono fasting, put it this way. I explain it like this. You see your body in a way of an analogy. Your body's a factory, a manufacturing space. Yeah, things come in to be processed, need to go out for delivery. Yeah, I've worked in a factory before. Left school and worked in these distribution centers, you know, and shit comes in and you got to process it and get it out. Everything's going all over the place. And when a big load comes in, you know, and you got targets and you're under pressure and you got supervisors looking over you, CEOs and all of that, you know, oh, we need to do our job. We need these targets. We need this stuff out. You're under pressure, stress. So if you're eating a plate with so many different foods that digest at different rates, that carry different nutrients and different toxins, and you want your body to process it in the most efficient way, yeah, you ain't doing yourself any favors. When you monofast, if it's pineapple, if it's oranges, if it's apples, if it's broccoli, whatever it is, yeah, think about you being in that factory. The same package is coming in. You know exactly where that goes. You know exactly how long it takes you to pick that one package up and put it into its place, push it, take it to its next station. That's efficiency. You love it when you're getting all the same kind of stuff coming through whatever area of work. It simplifies things. Yeah, you're not experiencing so much stress. And what is stress? Look how that reacts on other areas of your system. It constricts. Stress also reduces the amount of those immunoglobulins produced in your saliva. So stress and fear is a direct attack on your immune system. Yeah. Hence why we have to look around and say, what exactly is going on in this time? And why so much fear and stress and pressure being promoted in the name of us supposedly having to have certain viruses? Do you see what I'm saying? There's triggers that are as old as man, that have been known for as long as man's been here. Physiologically, stress constricts things. It stops things working. Your vessels constrict. When you're relaxed, they deflate, they dilate, they relax, they open up, things can flow through smoother. When you are in a stressful state, everything tightens up, you get tense, your breathing shortens, oxygen's not getting around, you lose your appetite. Yeah, you're not producing the glands or the secretions. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, what I'm saying here is bulk manufacturing, it's a stress on the body. Yeah. So all them 3-course meals that you're eating within an hour, you know, in the name of, you know, happiness and enjoying, yeah, cool, but there's a time and a place. Get your system in order first, if it's required. Mono eating is a big alleviator of stress on the system from an internal point of view. Yeah. When you've done that, when you've done those kind of processes and you've relieved a lot of the bulk, yeah, you'll find yourself going to the toilet a lot more frequently. Things are moving. You know, you might be coming alive a bit more. You ain't requiring so much sleep. Yeah. You can turn to herbs. You can from the start, of course. You can do it same time. Yeah. But herbs, there's a lot of herbs that will either denature, kill off a lot of the parasites. Yeah. Or herbs that will break down the bulk, the stubborn waste matter in your body. You talk about herbs for that. You got like cascara, sagrada, and you got senna leaf. You know what I mean? You've got even ginger's works like that. You know, you've got black husk, the walnut husk, especially for parasites. You got wormwood. You got golden seal. All of these herbs are beautiful for digestion. Yeah, and really breaking down fecal matter, that dry, stubborn waste that is lodged in your system, slowing everything down, stagnating your body, stagnating your thoughts, stagnating your experience. You got enemas. You know, it's a bit more invasive, a bit more intrusive. Some people just opt not to. That's cool. Some people do opt for it. It can work. It can, you know, be a solution to an immediate problem. Basically, where you're going in from one end through the anus and you're flushing. You use a little kit bag, self-applicable, cool, but you're just flushing, but you're only reaching the large intestines, but sometimes that's what needs clearing. And the other methods, you know, you might have some stubborn stuff there and it can take a long time to get through it. But you can get used to the process. You can be quite comfortable, enough, you know, tolerable. You see what I'm saying? But you also want to go from the top, because remember, the small intestines need that attention, need that flushing. So we have to go from the top. The enemas won't reach that far. If you can imagine the way the intestines are laid out. And just referring again to the process. This is a big one. Overindulgence. Eating beyond our requirement or need. An imbalance anyway is an imbalance everywhere. And when I say that, I say, again, overindulgence, because we might be able to spot patterns in our reality, in our life, where we overindulge, not just food. Because anytime we're kind of leaning on any habit, any form of addiction, we are feeding, we're suggesting that we are lacking in ourselves. This comes in many ways. This comes TV, binging on TV programs. Yeah. Binging on people, friends, partners, family members. We feel that need, yeah, to access external stimulation. Yeah, we're overindulging. Sex, overindulging. We can be guilty of all these things. Eating is a big one. Yeah, alcohol, entertainment in so many forms. When we overindulge, we are sending direct signals to the body. There's nothing in balance in overindulging. When it comes to food, because we have been kind of trained to chase the stimulation, a lot of the foods these days, especially with all the sugars and refined sugars, yeah, this is a biochemical addiction that we've been trapped into. Yeah, so we're chasing this kind of dopamine release that is going on in the brain. Remember, this is all to do with the conscience as much as it is to do with the digestive system physically. So when we have a pastry or a donut or a piece of bread, some chips, rich steak, anything like that, what's happening is we are chasing this stimulation, production of dopamines in the brain. But every time we are doing this, we are reducing the amount of dopamines the brain can produce. And we're producing the the amount of receptors, more importantly, that the dopamines need to click into to give us this euphoric feeling of what we call satisfaction. So this is why if you take sugar in your tea, you're always going to increase it year on year. You know, as you grow, you need more. You start to lose the sensitivity to certain things, you know, in many areas of life. So you require more, and now you become like a parasite to whatever it is, especially if it's people, because you want more of their time. You become more needy because you to get that same kick. You see what I'm saying? You find yourself just shifting through the TV, like you spend an hour just going through the different channels. You want that constant stimulation. You want the greatest high. And we do this with food a lot. We're constantly eating, constantly snacking. And what we're not allowing is for the digestive process. So we're never allowing for a transformative process because we're always in sequence. And because we're always in sequence, we don't know how to apply patience. We don't know how to apply observation. We don't know how to apply satisfaction to the being. We're always in sequence. This becomes counterproductive. So we don't get no transformative results, no good outcome. And as a byproduct, we don't get the outcome. So now we remain indebted. We're in negative equity of nutrients. So now we're chasing even further. Hello, what was going on in the brain with dopamine? This is what is actually going on in the system below. We're chasing more. We think we're hungry all the time. We're not. We're starving for nutrients, not chips, not even another salad. We want nutrients. We want to be able to absorb them. Yeah, we're hydrated. So we always think, a lot of the times we mistake hunger for thirst. And when we're thirsty, we think we can satisfy our body with a bloody coffee or a Fanta or a, Dr. Pepper, tea. Your body needs pure water and a certain type of water. Your body needs water. It needs hydration. Nothing's getting assimilated. Nothing's getting absorbed. Nothing's getting digested. Nothing's getting eliminated. But we mistake this feeling of thirst for hunger. There's a book called The Body's Many Thirsts for Water. I think it's by a Iranian doctor called Dr. Batman. I think his last name. But there's another book called something like Your Body's Hungry, Not Thirsty. Something along those words, those effects. Very good. Breaks it down. Makes perfect sense. So when we're hungry or thirsty for nutrients, we just think we're hungry and thirsty because we put so much kind of noise into the body. We can't hear what it's actually calling for because there's so much going on, so much vibration, so much noise, so much stress, so many thoughts, so much stagnation, so many deficiencies. We can't hear clear. There's no clear or clarity. Yeah. So we keep overindulging. Now, the body, depending what it is you eat, if it's fruit, it will take 20 minutes to 40 minutes to digest and leave the stomach. If it's a bit more complex, salady foods, like salads, it might take a bit longer. Starches and carbs, a bit longer. You're going between the hour and the 2 hour mark. If it's meats, especially red meats, you're talking up to 4 or 5 hours. That's if you are producing sufficient stomach acid to move. And after that 4 or 5 hour mark, there's another system that kicks in. It's the MMC, migrating motor complex, like that. It's basically another activation of the neurological system. And it's like, it's that system that comes in once everything's left the stomach and the small intestines, and then it goes and sweeps and cleans, and it opens these valves again. Because after the stomach, before it enters the intestines, this is what we call the pylorus area. And we have the pelvic sphincter. It's like the doorway between the stomach and the small intestines. And if this is not cleaned out sufficiently, and there's different bacteria going on, they can make their way back up through the intestines into the stomach. This is where we get stomach bacterial overgrowth. A lot of this derives from low stomach acid, or the fact that we're not clearing out the system, not flushing the system. Makes sense. Yeah. And a lot of us, the pyloric acid, region, we get that HP pylori or HB pylori. It's that Heliobacter pylori. A lot of women suffer with this. A lot of men do too. And initially that comes from low stomach acid, because we're not killing off the pylori that is entering the stomach in the first place. The acid should do that. But when the bacteria can make its back way through that area into the stomach, the first thing it's doing is having a party and multiplying. And then it makes its way into the cell walls. From there, it can start messing with the acid regulation. And often it turns it up so that we're producing too much stomach acid. So then we'll go to a doctor and they will provide antacids. So the stomach stops producing acid. Then we've got all of the problems that come with not producing acid. Do you see what I'm saying? So we get trapped in these cycles. So this is what overindulgence can do. And also it's just, I want to bring the attention to the mind and the way we think and the way we're perceiving our reality, because we're overindulging for a reason. So all healing starts in the mind. And the more we can understand the nature of what it is we are doing and why we are doing, the more we are empowered to make decisions that will assist the outcomes we desire. We have the information, we have the knowledge. Now it's about assimilation of all of this and getting that knowledge and information to the certain areas or faculties within ourselves, within our energy, within our will, within our disciplines. It's a digestive process. So when it comes to overindulgence or indulging in general, yeah, I'll say it like this: simply pace and space. Simplify what it is you're taking in as much as possible, hence the mono feeding. Or just pay close attention to food combining. If you're not familiar with food combining, look it up, research it. That's just the art of putting right foods together that digest at similar rates, rather than having 2 veg, meat and carbs. What do they call it? Meat, veg and spuds, or something like that. Something like that. Yeah, come on, British. We know what we've got these traditional ways, these 3 meals a day, this snacking culture that is wreaking havoc on our internal world and experience, which is then presenting itself in our external world experience. And we're getting caught between the crossfire and we're confused as how. Simplify things. That's the nature of digestion, no? All it's trying to do is transform something into its simplest form so that it can simply process and transform it into something great. Less is more. So eat as simply as possible. Try not to eat your meats if you're eating meats. Use your carbs in your salads. Eat a salad if you're eating a salad. Yeah. If you're eating veg, eat the veg. If you're eating fruits, eat the fruits. Eat as simply as possible. Once you're clean and you're going and you're firing on cylinders after however long it takes, you can go and have your fun. But at certain points, we have to just stop doing stupid things that are affecting our health, me included. Do you know what I mean? We have to do this. We have to use wisdom, knowledge, and information and understanding of self and repair and bring back balance. And then it's all right to go and, dance with the devil, but it's like, just go home with God, and it just counterbalance. Do you know what I mean? When I say pace, this is very important. It can resolve a lot of digestive issues, this alone. When I say simply pace how you're eating. I'm talking about chewing. At least 20 to 30 chews is considered the healthy amount. Yeah. In order to break this stuff down into a simple and susceptible unit before it goes into the stomach to do all of that stuff. Take your time, because once you're chewing, you are activating and stimulating more secretions and chemistry all around your body. And this is why it's good to kind of consider where you're doing your food and the time you're designating to your eating practices. It all affects it. When we're driving and we're on the go, we're mindless, we're watching the road, we're thinking about every Tom and Harry. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot going on. We can forgive ourselves. We didn't come into the easiest time. There's so much processing going on in our reality, and so much processing required. So much stress triggers, pressure triggers. We've already got stuff that we've come into this world with, you know, from genetical inheritance or weaknesses on every level. You know what I mean? So we can just be kind and forgive ourselves. It's all right if we got conditions. Just take time, pace ourselves, and don't try and skip the process. That's why I say, just like, yo, enjoy the process, because it's the process that you're getting the learning from. When we try and cut the process and we miss the journey, there's nothing to report back then. How are we going to kind of show somebody else which way to go? Or, you know, when you get diversions, or you have to take pit stops, or you have to come up, you have to know that, you have to experience it. That's where the learning is in life. When I say space, I'm referring to the time between meals. Yeah. Think about what we just spoke about, how long certain digestive practices take or processes take. Give yourself that space, allow that MMC system to kick in after 3 or 4 hours, and give it another sweep for an hour. And basically what you're doing is you're retraining the body. When you do this, you are sending different signs and symbols to the body, different communications. You start to retrain the body not to become so hungry, because now you are also beginning to digest and absorb nutrients more efficiently. So you're not going to get the signs and symbols of you being so hungry, which we know now is more of a kind of a mental trick of the mind. And when I say mind over matter, use it. Again, look at, well, there's an image, we can all see there, of the gut brain. Look at the resemblance to the brain and its structure. It's showing you what it is. Yeah. So use your mind. Like I say, let's get into that submind, that subconscious. Be kind to yourself. Don't expect yourself to just pick everything up and run with it and heal yourself. No, there's a process. It has to be reversed. We have to go back through it. Yeah. But just be present on the process. When I say mind over matter, it's exactly what I mean. Like, let your mind govern the processes, especially when it comes to the matters that we're putting in, that affect the matters at hand in our reality. And like I said earlier, think about this. You know, there's a lot of scientific reference and journalism that pertains to the placebo effect, which is basically a mind science. Borderline supernatural stuff that we're uncovering, that's always been there, that we're starting to identify in science. Yeah. But remember, in the conversation earlier, I think we was talking about, how you can make yourself sick just with a thought or just with a sight of something real. Once you can't stomach something in your reality, your body will try to release it. Remember, your mind produces a chemical correspondence to every single thought you have. So if that thought is toxic, has a low vibration, the chemical that corresponds to that thought is of the same vibration. So when you have this toxicity building up in your gut, in your stomach, because of the thoughts you have, that's too toxic for your intestines. Boom, your body wants to eliminate it and release it. It's no good. Simple. Makes sense. But think of it this way. If you can think yourself sick, then of course, by the laws of nature, you can reverse that process. You can think yourself well. It's just a mere fact that we are more programmed, more trained, yeah, subliminally and subconsciously, to think ourselves sick everything in our reality, or a lot of things, are suggesting to us thoughts of pressure, fear, worry, sickness, loss, insecurity. Hence why we probably have this experience more so than we do the opposing ideal experience. So I don't care how far down the line of your condition you are, or your friends and family are, the reality is, which has always been a testimonial to the mind and the supernatural power of man, that we can think ourselves or heal ourselves mentally, psychically, supernaturally, spiritually, if you may, however you want it, whatever degree you want to see it as. Science backs it, like we ever needed science to back anything. But just go through the process of what's actually happening within you, and it's clear. It shouts volumes and screams to you what your potential is. That's already transformation. Thought to chemical to physical, transforming your creator. Okay. Just a quick word about the acid. Again, a little bit of elaboration because it's important. An acid v alkaline, and obviously there's so much talk about acid versus alkaline in our reality, in our diet. and we make the mistake, like we do so many other things, of kind of demonizing acid and martyring alkaline. The body don't know nothing about good or bad, you know. All it knows is balance. I was having a conversation with my son, and you know, we were just talking about how much of the body is actually acidic. Like when we're talking about amino acids, yeah, when we're talking about your DNA, there we go, deoxynucleic ribo acid. We're talking about an acid substance, acid in its nature. Acid ain't bad. You are very acidic. Remember, the body wants to sit at a pH balance of 7, slightly alkaline, 7.34 or something like that. Yeah? So don't make the acidic pattern of thought or train of thought that acid is bad or acid is wrong or bad food is bad even. Because I'll tell you one thing as well, a little takeaway note. Understanding the power of your mind. You know, ancient cultures across the world, we used to bless our food. Yeah? Not just to ask God to do the work. That's a kind of more common day religion kind of approach. You're asking God to do the work for you, something outside of yourself. We would bless our food knowing that it is us that is installing the nutritional value, we can look at it like that, into the food, even though we knew what we was eating was probably not the best for the body. But if you put your blessing on it, you can remove any of the pathogens in the food. This is what blessing and healing and putting your energy on the food was before eating it. This is all to do with, you know, grandma in the kitchen, humming along and singing along. You know that food, you know love when you taste it. That's what I'm saying. If we're just getting all this fast food while we're on the go, while we're driving, with the thoughts that we're thinking, while we're digesting, yeah, this is a very kind of interactive process that we are involved in. My point being, at worst, if you know you're dancing with the undesirables, if it's a sausage roll or a bloody donut or something, the worst you can do is feel bad or guilty for it in the moment, trust me. Because the chemicals you're producing just with those thoughts, yeah, is what is going to nourish you. That's something I learned a long time ago, and it's like, damn, if you're going to do something, do it with love, at least. Yeah, and just be kind to yourself. Okay, I'm going to eat this. I know I am. All right, it may not be the best for me. You're going to know that in your subconscious, but you know what? Let me just put a bit of love. Let me just put a little spark of magic on that. Let me alleviate some of the burden or the baggage, because that becomes a habit and we become hating ourselves and feeling disappointed in ourselves. And our system just gets more constrained and more constrained, more negative vibration, low vibration running through our system, more guilt, more worry, yeah, less secretions, less digestion, yeah, more ailments. Be mindful of what you're doing when you're doing it, and don't be hard on yourself. Acid digests, key to digestion, as we say, it erodes, it corrodes, it breaks down. There's always that breaking down, that destroyer faculty, even in the mythological stories, in the mythos. I don't care where you're coming from. There's always that God, the destroyer. It's never a bad God, because we have to destroy to rebuild. We destroy the food, the energy to rebuild it. You might destroy a company, break it down, write it off to build a new one. It's part of a process. Nothing here is permanent. We have to let go. Acid also processes minerals. It's also involved in that processing. Yeah. And breaking down certain foods. For example, like B12. If you aim for the gastric juices sending certain signals, yeah, then we don't produce the factors, the intrinsic factors that B12 is dependent upon to be absorbed into the blood. If it isn't for stomach acid and certain processes in the stomach, then especially hydrochloric acid, that's responsible for breaking down pepsinogen, which is just basically a chemical that digests your proteins. But it needs to be broken down into a form that can latch. Yeah, and it's acid that does that. So if we're low in acid, or our acid is not functional, then we lack that capability. Like I said, there's so many triggers that go on in the body, and everything's timely. Once a certain process is in order, it triggers another one. It's divine intelligence, it's order. Yeah, we're in chaos, but the body's in order. It's obeying the orders, the laws. Yeah, but we get in the way, we block the signals unconsciously a lot of the time. Acid denatures the pathogens and the bacteria, again, key, vital. These bacteria and these worms, these parasites, as within, so without. Even if it's not actual, don't forget, all of these organisms have their own minds, they have their own ideas, they have their own survival instincts, they have their own spirit. See all them cravings that you're getting, that you think are your cravings. No, you don't want those cravings. Your mind's already told you, I don't want no sausages, I don't want that beef, I don't want those cakes, I don't want the biscuits. So where are these very yearning, surging pulls coming from? They're coming from that which you are feeding, that is dependent upon that acidic state of food, that is dependent on that acidic environment to fester and grow. The fungus, the candidas, the worms. Yeah, I said a long time ago, if you want to kill the parasites, stop feeding them. Understand what they feed on. Your fear, your worries, your woes are another form of energy. We all know this. We've had people in our lives around us that seem to feed on our negative aspects of what's going on. If you feel it, parasites, we can call them parasites. You know, we love everybody, blah, blah, whatever. Parasites. There's people that feed on your energy. You don't want to get too, la-di-da with it, but parasites in one form or another. Teachers at the same time, they're there to teach you, they're there to heal you, they're all there, it's all God. But you have to recognize what it is in the moment, as within, so without. When you start cleaning up house and clean up your health, eliminate a lot of these parasites and these worms that are sucking and draining your energy, that are eating your nutrients also, because that's what they do. When nutrients reach certain areas, they will latch onto them and they will ferment the food. And this creates a lot of gas, a lot of flatulence. You see what I'm saying? That's coming from undigested food. That's coming from poor food combining, digestion at different rates. It all creates chemistry, which creates gas, solids, liquids, and gases, transformational matter. Yeah, but the parasites and the bacteria, they latch onto it and they ferment them themselves and they feed off the nutrients, but to break it down and to denature it from a form that you can gain. Because in the bigger picture, if you're getting these nutrients, you're getting your charge up. And the first thing the body's going to do is just like a dog going to shake, going to get these fleas and these bacteria out of there. A lot of the harmful bacteria cannot exist in a balanced state. A lot of people say, oh, in an alkaline state. No, it's just a balanced state. if you've got the right currents of electricity firing through your systems, think about a fly when it hits one of those lights. Yeah, go back to the light. It's electrifying. It's not an environment conducive for its health and well-being. It must leave. These squatters must leave. If you create a nice, harmonious environment for them, they ain't going nowhere, and they're just going to multiply, and they're going to burrow themselves. They know you better than you know yourself. All your thoughts are vibrations. They're tuned in. They're listening. When you're smelling that pastry, okay, we know these thoughts. We know these chemicals. There's temptation around. Rally the troops. Oh, the craving. Oh, the urge. That's not your mind. You're telling yourself, no. I don't want it. I'm bad for it. Oh, please don't. Maybe just a bite. Maybe just one. You know what I mean? It's them. They are craving. They are trying to rule you, which they are. And they are single-celled organisms, a lot of them all close to. But we're so confused as trillion-celled organisms that we are, there's no order. So then, the small man can dominate the big in that sense. So your acid regulates bacteria, because not all bacteria is bad, as we know. Trillions of bacteria, especially in your gut, mainly in your large digestive tract, in your large intestines. How is bacteria good? The bacteria, I think, we'll get to it in the last 2 slides. But just sticking on acid for the time being, how can we regenerate the acid when we've got low acid? A simple acid test show people is just by using a bicarb soda in the morning to see if you've got low acid or excess acid. If you've got excess acid, it suggests that you've got H. pylori bacteria overgrowth in your stomach. Yeah, again, start flushing them out. Start using bacteria cleansing antimicrobials, tinctures, fluids, drinks, teas, herbs. A lot of the antimicrobials, a lot of the regenerative herbs are the bitters. A lot of us that come from families we come from native lands or indigenous lands, you know about the bitters. When your parents or your grandparents used to give you them bitters, what the hell is bitters? You clean you out. That's what they used to tell you. Drink it. We're talking about the bitter herbs and a lot of the root herbs, dandelions, the roots, the burdocks. Do you know what I mean? In the salads, you got like rocket. Again, you got golden seal. These herbs, cascara. This is one of the bitterest herbs I know, but it will clean you out. You know what I mean? It will just, they cannot stand it. They cannot hold that level of frequency. Yeah, and just think of it as it's the closest you're going to get to acidic in food. And I mean the nature. When you think about really, really bitter, you're getting close to the acid kind of experience, ain't you? To a degree. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. The first thing you do, however, before we get to the bitters, is you reverse the cause. Stop feeding that which is to your detriment. Yeah, be mindful. One of the biggest acid forming foods is mucus. It is mucus, dairy. And to this day, a lot of allopathic, even a lot of naturopathic, in the schools of thought where I've been taught, it's like, oh God, we still got a long way to go. It's no secret. Dairy is next to red meats, but more so than red meats. Dairy is arguably the most acidic forming food you can put into your body. I don't care what form or function it's coming in. I don't care how organic it is. It's all deriving from the same pus that comes from a cow excretion. That's for cows. That's why it has such a hard time in the human body. It's for cows. Yeah. So, and it's not to make us feel bad about what we're doing, just to inform us. We want to stop feeding the acid. We want to stop the mucus forming foods. A great book from 100 years ago. One of the most magnificent physicians of the time, Arnold Ehret, he was the first to come up with the mucusless diet healing system. Now, a lot of the modern day, a lot of the Dr. Robert Morseys, a lot of the Dr. Savies and all of that, they're all using that same model. I don't know if they got it from the guy. Chances are they picked up a few things to reading around their topic. But the mucusless diet healing system is an amazing book, and another one called Rational Fasting. Arnold Ehret, it was amazing. Yeah, we want to stop the mucus forming foods, the starches, the breads, the meats, the refined sugars. You ain't got to do it for life. If you love pizza, you love cheese and whatever, although you got vegan options, not all vegan food is good. Just clean the system first, then get back to the party. But just more mindfully, go and have your stuff. Like, that's what I'm saying. Don't turn yourself into a villain all the time. Just turn yourself into a hero some of the time. You see what I'm saying? So reverse the course of action for the time being till you've gone through your process, at least if you're determined to reverse. Yeah. Use the herbs. Use the foods, use the high alkaline foods. Fasting is the fastest way to reset your system. Yeah. So when you're fasting, you're talking about like 90% of your energy going to the healing homeostasis cause. Excuse me if we've gone over time here. We've only got 1 or 2 more slides, I promise. Yeah. Fasting resets the system. It allows everything, like we say, all those kind of MMC systems and stuff to come out and do the sweeping, do the flushing, and then get back to the good stuff. Do you know what I mean? Especially when it comes to recultivating and regenerating and regulating body systems and glandular systems. Fasting is so powerful. Again, maybe a day on a dry fast. Use the juices, use the water, use the herbs. Incorporate those into your fasting methods. Use the mono foods. So in that sense, I don't actually know what fasting means like that. But we're just talking about mono feeding. People call it mono fasting. Fasting is just like a term that you're just emitting from a certain practice then. Yeah. But the bitter herbs and the fasting regenerates and re-regulates your acid production. Yeah. Go for those tampers, the bacterias in the areas where they shouldn't be. Like I say, where this links the bacteria in these worlds, these universes within your own worlds. Remember, worlds within worlds. Yeah. This is where it links to mood and depression, which a lot of our people around us are going through, especially in these times. We've already, like, it's very agreeable now how, of course, my mood is directly related to my digestive system and my gut. We've already identified every single which way, but maybe not, but many, many ways in which they're interrelated, interconnected, interdependent. It's one, it's you. But serotonin, particularly, is produced, which is the messenger, the chemical which stimulates mood or happiness, or that feeling of happiness and contentment. Serotonin, 95% of it is produced in the gut. It's a byproduct of gut bacteria activity. Without this gut, without the good, I like to good, bad, and we don't like to play that game sometimes, but those serving bacteria that are within you. Because put it this way, in reality, if we've got, billions and billions of cells in the human body, we've probably got about 10 to 100 times the amount of bacteria that our body's running off. You as a being right now are more bacteria than you are cells. So really, in a sense, like what is going on here is, are these bacteria hijacking your vessel, or are you hijacking their wave? Everything. One is one anyway. So my point is, you are a lot of your good bacteria, and that is a very, very crucial part of this life experience, your bacterial microbes. Yeah. And 95% of your serotonin, the others produced in the brain, various other places, is produced in the gut as a byproduct of the bacterial activity. So if your bacterial balance is off, if a lot of these kind of rogue bacteria have colonized, took over the camp of these areas, now they're smothering and killing out and suppressing and oppressing the indigenous bacteria that are there for good reason, that are keeping order and keeping balance. Yeah. Then you've got new cultures growing, no pun intended, but it writes itself. You've got new cultures growing in these colonies in the colon, then, yeah, that are ruling your ship, directing your ship, and basically taking control of all your systems and replacing them with systems that suit their own. As within, so without, we see this going on. Like, how colonization works, a lot of us. Yeah. Also, when we was talking about the cell wall, a lot of your cell wall integrity is determined by the good bacteria producing these fatty lipid structures. That's what they do when they're eating and digesting and fermented. A byproduct of the good bacteria is these fatty lipid structures that become the wall integrity of the intestine. And I mentioned this because when it comes to re-regulating the bacterial flora of the body, when we're using medications such as antibiotics, if you got to do it, you got to do it. Again, we're not making a villain of anything here. We're just trying to empower the information and go forward in the right direction. But when we're using antibiotics and medicines of these, even ibuprofens and these things, simple things like aspirins, what they do is they go in and they wipe out all of the bacteria. You see, like chemo, that other chemical acidic therapy, I'd put that into people and it just goes and wipes out all of the cells. That's like, watching the Brits and Americans going carpet bombing countries in the name of terrorists. And you're like, yo, is it? They're showing this on TV. Like, is this? Are they desensitizing us, which is happening internally, this bacteria activity? They're desensitizing us. We're supposed to be comfortable watching carpet bombing happening. And we know, there's real people under there. Women and children and men who have nothing to do with anything. Yeah? But these same systems, peoples, cultures that are doing this in the without are also happy to do this within you. Yeah, take this will set you straight. Come back and see me in a month or two with the side effects. We got other shit for you. We got other goodness for you. Yeah? The point is, if we can't, in this day and age, with all this access to information and awareness, we can't learn to govern our own ship, then, prepare to be pirated. You know what I mean? It's just that. It's that kind of, the multi-dimensional game that's going on here. But your happiness, content, and health resides within your own capacity. Most of the time. Do seek assistance externally. Go and get your tests. Go get your diagnosis from the people. There might be some things you're agreeable to. There may be some things that are not so agreeable, but you think, I need to get over this bridge. I'm going to do all my combating and counterbalancing, to counter the effects of these. Cool. Don't make yourself a villain. Just be mindful. Like I say, the way we overthrow the colonies is to stop feeding them, especially your fears and your worries and your woes. That IBS is never going to clear up. It's not going to clear because you're holding on to so much things about yourself you cannot stomach. Let go. Feed the good. Feed the worthy. Feed those that are feeding you. Do that with prebiotics and probiotics. Yeah, there's certain cultures you can get. Like I said, a lot of my mates are like strictly vegan and they're on that. No, it's got to be vegan. Yeah, cool. But sometimes you need that push. You know, we ain't talking about steroids or antibiotics or chemotherapy. We're talking about, okay, then, because, and this is important, because if you box yourself into any group, vegetarian, vegan, or whatever, you're limited, you box yourself, you got walls around you. Like, get out of the groups, get away from the labels, just do what's required and necessary in the moment. I will always guarantee there's a plant herbal option for everything. I know that, but sometimes we don't have all the time for that. And I was hard on myself and I was silly like that for many years, but I've kind of matured in a way to see that, no, you need to do what's necessary, especially us that have grew up on sad, standard Western diets, grew up on all the crap, grew up on all the schmuck and the processed and the cheap and the meat and the, you know, and then we get clean and get wow, and perfect ourselves, but then we're scared of a little bit of microbe that might derive from an animal. We're scared of sometimes a bit of honey, or we go to an extreme. You know what I mean? Just do what's required in the moment. And I'm saying that in relation to some of the cultures that you might use as a pre or probiotic. Yeah. Again, use the herbs. Focus on stomach acidic regulation and focus on good digestion. Get the basics right. Start there. Start with how you're perceiving things. Yeah, especially yourself. Start with the hydration. Make sure you've got the hydration available, the water supply available in you to assimilate, to digest, to produce all the secretions necessary, to eliminate. All requires the water. Chew your food. Create that space and that place to chew your food. Think about it like this, and there's only one more slide. Conscious consumption. It's what I used to call a similar workshop years ago, and how it relates to the eating. Just think of the how, why, where, what. Do you know what I mean? Just be aware of why you eat in the first place. Always remind yourself, why am I eating this? What is my being requiring from this experience, from this transformational process that I'm about to embark on? How can I do that most consciously and considerably for my best health? Okay, let me start with making sure I've got good reserves of secretion, salivas. Make sure that I chew my food properly, mindfully. Let me make sure I'm appreciating my food instead of wolfing it down, because all these are all serotonins, and you want to get in relationship with the pheromones of the food, because that's in communication as well. To smell, appreciate the way a mango looks, how it smells, feel it. This is all offsetting various chemicals. You will never know. Science is still 200 years behind. But the truth is in the experience. Yeah. Form a healthy relationship with your food. That's where the health starts. Appreciation strengthens communication in whatever level you're applying it. Yeah. Bless your food. Be grateful. What's your setting? You know what I mean? Is it a place where you can indulge in this kind of sacred process, this healing process that you're taking yourself on? You're taking yourself seriously, take yourself sacredly. Yeah. It's just the how, it's the why, it's the where, it's the what. What are you eating? Is this conducive for the outcome that I'm trying to achieve? Fruits, salads, all of those, again, they're doing half the work for you, because most of them are 90% hydration. Most of them are just full of nutrients and digestive enzymes within themselves. Natural food digest themselves. They're wired, geared that way. They've got the intelligence, the light. They grew on water. They grew on oxygen. They grew on light intelligence. Yeah. So just consider what you're eating at the time. And again, going back to some of the things we've discussed, think about the way you're doing it. If you're mono feeding, or if you're just being mindful or conscious of how your food combining, the space between food, the pace that you're letting everything kind of go through. Be mindful of the thoughts you're having when you're in digestive mode. I think this is the last slide. Okay, yeah. And then other ways And again, this is pretty much supporting the kind of metaphysical aspect of this, which so many of our conditions and diseases are deriving from. And I don't mean to come with a kind of, guru type approach or the new age approach. Nah, but we've known this stuff for years and years. We're trying to get it across. This is like good nutrition. Yeah. Balance the mental and the physical, because if you do not, put it this way, the first law of universal law is the universe is mental. Your whole reality, your world is governed by your mental faculty, whether you've arrived at that realization or not. So what we want to do is reinforce everything by starting here. This is where health starts. And I point here, but we've already discussed this. It's wholesome. This brain, this mind is wholesome. It's in every part. So as long as you're thinking along the right lines, you're receiving yourself in the right lines. Yeah. You're restricting, you're eliminating half of the barrier, half of the obstruction, even more so than half. That's why I say like yoga. Yoga is amazing for organ stimulation and massaging, for opening yourself up, for allowing circulation to flow, for you to kind of get in tune and in touch with yourself. You want to feel your weaknesses. You want to feel your aches and pains. You want to know yourself. You want to feel yourself off balance. Do you see what I'm saying? And you want to feel that progression of you gaining balance, you conditioning your bones, you becoming more lucid, lubricant, and flexible in your joints, you opening up. Meditation, whatever you call that, or prayer, or whatever. It's a meditative aspect. That's entering a stage of self-realization. It's becoming very, very, very mindful or self-centered in who you are, what you're doing. And you can use meditation, I like to use it, to scan the body, introspect, go through, and use affirmation. Remember, we're talking about vibrations, and those thoughts, that is the word of God. That's the original word. That's the first action as it relates to karma. Karma meaning action, and the first action is with the thoughts. That's why in the myth, they'll always tell you, it don't matter what you do, it's your intention that is behind anything. That's why the heart gets weighed. Do you see what I'm saying? So go internally and change the way you are seeing, you are perceiving, and the way you are responding to yourself. How are you loving yourself? Are you caressing? Are you healing? Are you forgiving yourself? Yeah. Are you sending waves of healing energy through yourself, or are you going to wait for a shaman to come and do it for you? Both, whatever. But practice. No one is going to expect anyone to just practice. Yeah. Because the least you are doing is raising your serotonin levels and dopamine levels within yourself. That's already a massive regulation of balance, because we're so far in the acidic region, which is why we require so much alkaline thoughts and food and experiences and environments, because we're too far in the acidic. That's why acid gets a bad name for itself. Like I say, and the affirmations, talk to yourself in the most positive light, because we're more than ready to be hard on ourselves and talk down to ourselves and kind of dwell in the negativity or in the misfortune of our situation. But just change the wording, change the approach, change the vibration. Remember the transformation kind of process that's occurring. And so if we're suffering in digestion, the main faculty of digestive, that main system is occurring in the subconscious realm. Now, this more physical part of ourself is basically the manifestation, just like anything in your reality, of what is actually happening in your subconscious realm. Facts. To change the vibration and the tones of the thoughts, yeah, with affirmations. That's why affirmations become so powerful and so productive for people. It's just a science, a divine science, if you may. Breathe. So if I was to say to everybody now, just take a moment to relax. Relax your shoulders, because we're trying to just process, we're trying to digest, we're trying to assimilate information, trying to take in and absorb this good food. So relax, because when we do yoga, when we breathe, we are stimulating what's called the parasympathetic system, which is also known as the restoration and digestive system. It opposes the sympathetic, which is the kind of fight or flight system that gets you stimulated, that initiates a stress response, gets a job done. If you need to go and run or hop a fence or defend yourself. But remember what happens. Everything gets tight and constricted. All the energy surging towards other organs and faculties instead of the cells of your blood. Your digestive system shuts down. So right now, just take a moment to relax yourself, feel yourself present. Relax your face muscles. Relax your forehead, relax your jaw. Relax your shoulders. Become present just by erecting your spine, lengthening your spine. If you're sitting down, feel your coccyx or your seat bones connecting with the seat or the earth underneath you. Lift your lower ribs up away from the top of your hips. Just start to lengthen your spine. Roll your shoulders back and kind of allow them to lower energetically towards the ground. Kind of just affirms your posture. Tuck your chin slightly so the back of your neck is lengthened. And just imagine the crown of your head just raising and lifting up towards the ceiling or the heavens. You just feel that kind of slight presence in your posture. That lengthening, that opening of the vertebrae, where your nervous system runs up and down, sending communication from the north to the south. And just be aware of your breath. Inhale through your nostrils, smooth, soft and deep. Retain the breath, and as you inhale, just be aware of where this breath is actually reaching before you exhale. And when you exhale, just release as softly and as smoothly as you inhaled. Feel the tingles in your palms or the throbs or pulsations that are happening, the subtle energies. Breathe in. And as you breathe in, just be aware of which parts of your body is expanding with the inhalation. If you don't feel your belly expanding, then you're not taking full breaths. Breathe to the belly. Feel your gut expand as it receives the oxygen. Feel your ribs expand, your lungs expand. Your chest should be the last to inflate. Consciously control the breath as you release it through the nose and just keep that cycle going. Allow your eyes to just fall to a nice relaxed state, maybe closed. Keep being mindful of your posture and the subtle sensations. And why is this important? As I said, we're stimulating the restorative and the digestive systems. Sometimes you might realize that the core of your belly is tense when you're breathing. Let go. Relax your belly before you breathe in. And some of us might find that it feels a bit peculiar when we do this. That's testimony to how constricted and how tense we are with every single breath of the day that we're taking, not consciously. We're in fight mode, we're in flight mode. Who are we fighting? What are we running from? Inhale. That's vital oxygen, vital light coming through the air that is not getting to those places within the digestive system that needs healing, that needs restoration and regeneration. Uphill battle, but who are we fighting? Most of the time we're fighting our own mind, our own thoughts, our own perceptions, our own worries. So let's just become mindful of reversing those patterns, that cycle that occurs within. Start telling yourself how healthy you are. Start being grateful for everything in your world that you've got to be grateful for. And trust me, we've all got a lot. If you're going to feel any change in your muscles, just let it be your facial muscles when you feel yourself start to smile to yourself ever so slightly. Even that posture of the face is said to ignite and stimulate other chemicals. That's why a smile is very powerful and even contagious. Instant emission of powerful energy or loving, secure energy. And all that just to say that it only takes a few minutes a day, the more the better, to get to the real root of what's going on with a lot of our digestive problems and get more self-centered, self-realize, and become empowered to self-control, consciously control what is going on within us. We've been through a lot of different techniques, a lot of different practices, a lot of different tools that can assist the process of digestion, that can relieve a lot of the stagnations and the blockages, that can lift them. Yeah, whether it's either practice, the way we go about it, or what we can use externally. Yeah, we covered a lot of the kind of dimensional aspects that digestion plays in our health and our internal wealth. We covered the system, the organs, the accessory organs. Covered a few of the imbalances and diseases. We covered the acids, covered the bacterias. Digestion, you can go on for days and weeks. But we don't have to know how every aspect of the car works to know that we can get in the car and go from A to B. It doesn't require us to be fully mindful or knowledgeable on the mechanics of the car. All we want to know is the basics. How to keep those car tires inflated, how to keep the air pressure going, yeah, how to keep changing the fluids if needs be, the oils, topping up the oils, the hydration, yeah, how the electrics work, the manual things. Do you see what I'm saying? We now have to know which kind of fuel to put in. That's a big one. But these are considered basics. As long as we're applying the basics to ourselves and our health, like we can trust in all the other mechanics of the divine intelligence of the body to put everything into order. That's the promise. Same with the car. You keep the filters clean, give it MOT once in a while, you can go over the dirt tracks. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to know how it's all going on to arrive at your ideal destination. But the journey, the more you know, the better, the more empowered you are to change your tire or something like that. But you get the analogy in it. It's probably a common one. But it's just like that with life. It's like that with health. It's like that with the digestive system. But a main important part of the car is the brain. Same in the body. So, yeah, we've gone over time. I kind of anticipated that might be the case. Nevertheless, let me see if I can just, while we're all online, I can unshare video. I'm still a bit illiterate. Stop share. Okay, cool. So I'll just quickly look in the chat. I have a few questions if that's okay. As mentioned, feel free to drop in a question. Cool. So there's not too many questions, and I'm glad. I hope, you know, it was just coming in a kind of digestible form, so to speak. But Rebecca's got a few. I don't mind staying for another 5 or 10. But feel free, guys. Like I say, we've recorded this, so if you really want it, you can get it. But thanks for people's presence and time. As I say, I hope it was absorbable to a degree, and I hope it kind of brings a bit of light to the dim spaces around digestion. And if, like most of us, we just haven't given digestion that kind of consideration, I hope it's just kind of brought it to your attention. you might have other symptoms going on that you might now be able to link to kind of your digestive processes. So with that being said, give thanks. And yeah, Rebecca, what you're saying, sister? You can unmute or you can. Yeah.
So some of them you answered during it. I just wanted to double check, like, you know, when you were talking about juice fast, so I do smoothies in the morning, but are like soups just as valuable as well? Like your own homemade soups?
Yeah, that's a
Sorry.
very fair question. No, they're not the same.
Oh, okay.
Pre-digested, yes. So good. You know, a soup is better than a steak meal when it comes to digesting. But we're talking about the levels of energy efficiency here, and we're talking about the concentration of life force within the food. So when we're talking about a juice, predominantly we were talking about greens or fruits. Mostly we're talking about fruits. Fruit is the highest vibrational food. Fruit contains the most hydration. Fruit contains the most nutrients. Fruit contains the most active electrical energy and the intelligence to self-digest. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you take in a fruit juice, pure and pressed, you're just injecting pure life force into the body without the need for the body to do so much transforming energy expenditure. Do you get what I'm saying? When you do that with a smoothie, you still deal, even though it's broken down and pre-digested. Remember, the body's operating at a very micro level. So when you get into the kind of worlds within the body, that those little breakdowns of the dates or the banana, there's still big kind of units of food that need to be broken down by the body. Albeit a lot of it's done and it can be done more efficiently. But if you're comparing that to a juice, yeah, per molecule, it's a big difference. Yeah, there's only 24 hours in a day.
Would
And
it
if
be
we
better
talk,
than, sorry, would it be better than to like monofast? So rather than making a fresh broccoli soup, it would be better to just monofast eating broccoli. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying now. So I thought you was asking the difference between a soup, a smoothie, and a juice.
No, but from me, from a practical element.
Okay, yeah.
I'm terrible. I rush. I'm terrible with pace.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
just to kind of counteract that and be able to eat healthily, without rushing. So I'm thinking, okay, if I can make healthy soups myself, would that still be beneficial? That's what I meant. Sorry.
So I misunderstood. Apologies. But in that sense, yes. A soup. Yeah, if you're asking the difference, should I eat the broccoli as a whole, or if I soup it, yeah, which is gonna be more beneficial? And it depends, because I would say definitely soup it and have some, like, because you can consider that a liquid fast then. A lot of pre-digestion has occurred, a lot of broken down. But what you want to be mindful of is the process now, without getting too finicky, to transform that broccoli to a soup may include a lot of heat, yeah, for a long time. And what you want to be mindful of doing or not doing is denaturing a lot of the nutrients and enzymes in the broccoli. So with broccoli especially, I'd say, as a vegetable, you want to light steam it. Eat it as close to raw as possible, yeah? But you want to light steam it to soften the structure, yeah? As well as to release some of the kind of, I like to steam food as well to clean and cleanse it, especially vegetables, yeah? But you don't want to go overboard and make it too soft, because you won't be able to extract them. You would have killed off a lot of the nutrients and enzymes. Yeah, I hope I didn't. You said I got an unstable internet for some reason.
You froze for a little while, but I caught the ending. Ending.
No, yeah, so just be mindful of not overcooking your foods, and sometimes a soup might do that. Okay. However, it would be better for the kind of the sensation and the subtlety that it places on the requirements of digestion. But you don't want to go overboard and end up killing the nutrients that you're trying to absorb. So that's why I'd say, like, smoothies are probably better, because you're dealing with raw foods in that sense. Yeah. But, you know, like I say, a soup is better than a steak. But do try and get into the habit of cooking a lot of broccoli, steaming it and eating it and taking yourself through the paces, because that's clearly an area you want to focus on. Because the overindulgence, especially in this time, you know, look how it mimics the way that a lot of us are craving even information. And we end up taking in so much information each and every day. We're watching so many links from these groups, from YouTube, from these algorithms. Look how much information we're taking in, thinking that we're lacking. Yeah. And then over the course of the day, the week, and the month, how much have we actually absorbed? We're more confused than ever. So we think we need more information, more videos, more links, more exposing, more truths. Do you see the overindulgence? And the disability to digest and process and assimilate into your own wisdom. Yeah.
I have a couple more. I'm going to be really quick.
All right.
So the second one was, you know how they say, what is it? You eat breakfast, eat in the morning. And I think we spoke about this years ago. There's certain points of the day you're supposed to eat. Is it still true? And then, so we are told, they tell us to eat loads in the morning and then less, eat like a prince, and then eat much like a prince and dinner like a pauper. But what's the rule? What's the rule?
I got, yeah. All right. First of all, no rules. Yeah. Get that out of your psyche. You do what's required in the moment. But as it pertains to bloody typical Western wisdom, yeah, that model, all their food models that they taught us in school, throw them straight out the window. Yeah. All those, for example, the body clock which they offered us, eat breakfast like a king, couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah. Because the body clock has a different system in place. And up until what we will call about 10 o'clock, even 11, yeah, the body's in an elimination mode. Yeah. Through the night, the body has been processing, it's been digesting, it's been restoring, it's been accumulating a lot of waste because it's been repairing. A lot of your repair work goes, and there's always a byproduct in any form of processing or manufacturing, whether in the body or in the factory. Yeah. So in the mornings, yeah, that's why the first things you want to do, and you want to be in that pattern of, is you go into the toilet around 8 o'clock and releasing. One rule I used to put on myself is, okay, when I was getting myself in check, I don't put anything in until something has left. I don't want to be putting waste on top of waste. And when you start getting yourself into that, you can be like 2 o'clock, oh shit, I still ain't been. Okay, well, you got more work to do. You see what I'm saying? But once your systems are on par, in line, you'll find that your body wants to relieve itself around 8 o'clock, 7 till 9. That's usual. Then your body's still in an eliminatory mode. So you want to assist this process. Flushing, warm water, a lot of warm water, a lot of cleansing teas. Yeah, help the body to flush and eliminate and go to the toilet. The first things you really want to be eating, ideally for the body, again, is hydration and nutrients. You want to give life force fruits or a smoothie. Yeah, before you get into the hard, dry fiber cereals and starches and stuff, you'll do yourself a big service if you just give yourself an hour of just fruits or smoothies or very light foods that are easy on the body, that you can just extract a lot of life force from, because you need to wake up. Otherwise, you're going to do what? Turn to the coffee, turn to the Red Bulls, turn to the stimulants. Do you see what I'm saying? All counterproductive in keeping you trapped in bad cycles. So you're right. Yeah. You want to break that fast in breakfast with fast breaking foods. Do you see what I'm saying? Going easy on your body. Then around midday to lunch, to what we will call, 12 till 2. Then consider going a bit heavy. Like I say, just be mindful. But you don't want to go haywire with a big 3-course meal at that time. But you do want to reserve, I like to reserve the bulk, my biggest meal, for around 3 or even 2 to 5 o'clock. Because your body's in a certain mode then, and it's in an energy burning mode. Do you see what I'm saying? And you're still doing a lot you want to get through the evening. I don't like to eat, and the same food before you go to sleep. You don't want to eat any big meals after 7, 8 o'clock. Regardless, sometimes you're going to do it because you feel you got to do it. But refrain from that as a pattern as much as possible. Because when your body's going to rest, yeah, a certain thing system switch off, and your food will not be getting digested. It's just putrefying, just feeding a lot of crap. Do you see what I'm saying? And then it knocks everything off. You see what I'm saying? And you're sleeping on a lot of baggage, so to speak. Again, on that run up to whatever time you wind down, it's different if you know you're going to be up till midnight or 1 for whatever reason. Yeah, but try and give yourself cleansing teas after 7, after 8, maybe some smoothies, maybe some fruits and all that kind of stuff, maybe some salady foods or some light veg or whatever. It's not a rule, but just think of why am I doing this? And pay attention to the body clock. There's the common ones found in Chinese medicine, easy to extract from Google, but you'll see what time different systems are operating. Yeah, and that'll put you in good stead to know what time and what to feed your body. You use common sense, but common sense can be applied when you got the information, when you got an overall perspective of what you're looking at, because you got to apply the sense to something. Yeah, our problem is we've been like deprived of the actual kind of the true picture. So we try to apply common sense or academics, textbook sheet to a lot of stuff, which has painted a false picture. You see what I'm saying? Next.
My final question, related to the teas. So, like, I stopped cutting down my nettles and my dandelions because of the benefits, although I still haven't yet, I don't know what my block is, done anything with them. But they're there and I'm not getting rid of them because I know I want to use them. Can you use them too much? Like, I've learned that you have to use just the leaves of the nettle and not the root, and vice versa for the dandelion. But can you have too much? Is there a time you should have it? What's the...
good question. Like, so for me, it's, remember right there, when you're dealing with those plants out your garden, especially those out your garden, well, I would say, and I always advocate that is which is growing in your environment knows you better than you know yourself. You know, the earth is a body, is a being. It's mother nature that we're feeding off in it, and mother always can detect what's wrong with her child. You see what I'm saying? So your whole vibratory field that you're emitting and projecting over your space, yeah. Remember, all bodies are trying to gain homeostasis. So even mother that you're residing on, she knows what kind of fields are going on her surface. So she's always trying to harmonize and bring balance. So she's shooting up the shit that you need to bring balance. It's like, yo, there's two involved in the part, yeah. So when you pick up these plants, you see them as a food. They're a food first. Yeah. So that question, it's like, oh, can you overdose on pineapple? Well, yeah, sure. Do you know what I mean? Because if you overdo anything, it's out of balance. But if you just limit yourself to, dandelion tea in the morning and in the evening, some days nettle, some days both, yeah, you're going to be doing yourself a great service, not a disservice. Now, every part of those plants are useful. So there are times when the roots of the plants are usually better for the organs when you're regenerating organs. So the teas and the leaves do get in the blood system and work really well from a fluid-based system, and a great at cleansing and flushing and saturating. But some of the roots, like the nettle root, that has its place, especially for like the prostate gland and things like that. So you can use all of those things, but now you're not going to really go unless you're overindulging. You see what I'm saying? But I can't imagine such a situation. But there are times where it is healthy, I'd say, to just say, okay, then I've been drinking this tea every day for a couple of months. Let me just break off it. Drink some chamomile, drink some water. Do you know what I mean? And let your body kind of just flush and assimilate, if that makes sense.
My question's done. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. It's a pleasure. All right, cool. Well, if there's no more questions, family, or comments, feel free. Or if someone might have something else to say on top of what Rebecca was asking. We're all students here, most definitely. Then I'll bid you all a good night, and I'll stop.
If you want to ask a question, Ryan.
Got one quick question.
Hello, Vicky. You're right, sis.
Yeah, I'm good. What, like you were saying about IBS and rebuilding that cell wall. Does that mean that you can just, because the doctors are saying like I've got Crohn's, so like,
yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. I don't know how much to believe it, because they're saying so much stuff to cut out my diet, like don't eat fruit, limit vegetables, all this sort of stuff, which just kind of goes against everything that we know.
Yeah.
If I'm following the steps, like say start off just by doing juicing, intermittent fasting, that kind of thing, taking it slow.
Yeah.
That's not going to cause any damage.
Nah, it's the way, you know, to any true healing is through that elimination process of the toxins that are inhibiting the healing, and also it is through the food. So like what I become aware of a long time ago is a lot of the allopathic approaches, a lot of the GP standards to these problems, they're very detrimental. Do you know what I mean? You know, diabetes and things like this, and what we find is they're often their approach is, oh, it can't really be cured, but we have to know how to treat it. You know what I mean? What do you mean? The body don't understand that language either. You can't balance an imbalance. That's not human. It's not godly either. Yeah. So you know, a lot of Crohn's is linked to a lot of low iron as well, isn't it? You know, I don't know if you got that form. I think there's actually a particular type of Crohn's that is, you know, so you got anemic related Crohn's, and a lot of it is you find you have low iron cases as well. But definitely check where your stresses are coming from and the constrictions in your vessels and your valves and your pipes. Yeah, try and get on top of that. Definitely be subtle. Maybe lay off the strong citrus type foods initially, the astringent types, yeah, and go for a lot of the melons, a lot of the papaya types and the mangoes. Don't let a doctor ever tell you.
All the things that they've said don't
Yeah.
have mango, don't
bullshit.
eat melon.
Like this is like you gotta see these people as, I'm sorry, but the more in my opinion, and I'm not medically trained or anything, I gotta see these kind of antics as agent antics and agent tactics. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, a lot of you want to make digestion as easy as possible, especially with Crohn's. So you want to use a lot of the herbs. You want to use a lot of the nice, easily digesting fruits. Melons digest the quickest. Yeah, all melons. A lot of the kind of fat, nurturing foods that are coconut type, and you know, a lot of broths. Yeah, like the soups in this case. Do you see what I'm saying? And a lot of the veg, easily simple structured foods. Yeah, and salads and smoothies. You want to go on that journey for a bit. I don't know, because what the doctor's leaving you is with detrimental shit that is hard for your body to break down, and it's going to cause a lot of putrefaction, and it's going to cause a lot of kind of burrowing in those holes that is already in, you know, Crohn's, you're already suffering enough. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that would be my answer to that. When you're dealing with the doctors, you know, the good for some things, it's like you don't always throw the baby out with the bathwater, innit? You listen to what they're saying, but it's the same with anything. You just take out, you got to do your research outside of those realms in this day and age. Even many doctors would agree with that. They've realized that they're coming up very short when it comes to the healing and understanding the body, especially where nutrition is concerned. Do you see what I'm saying? But there might be some little things in there that can assist you on the kind of path or way, especially in forms of diagnosis and other areas. So just go in there like with a student's mind, and just listen, take the treasure and leave that trash, or dash it back at them.
Good advice, thank you.
Yeah, cool. More for the more. Going once. Cool, family. All right then, we'll call it a night. I wish everyone a beautiful sleep, and we'll connect again soon. Yeah, respect everybody.